Good evening, everyone. I would like to welcome you to our board meeting. I'd like to announce that this meeting of the Seguin Independent School District has been duly called, and the notice of this meeting is posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Section 551.043 of the Texas Government Code. At this time, we're going to rise for our pledges to the flag of the United States and Texas, and I will lead you. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. On the Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to you, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
All right, we'll take a little bit of time for a moment of silence. All right, thank you, everyone. I welcome all of you. I'm glad to see you. I know there are a lot of people here who have some big concerns, and I do want to let you know that this is a public meeting of the Board of Trustees. So this is a normal meeting. We have them every month on the last Tuesday of the month, so please come back and sit in, and anytime you want to come, just let us know. If you want to talk, just let us know. But we are going to run this meeting according to the fashion that we do in every other meeting. We follow Robert's Rules of Orders. And so we will be having discussions up here. We will be having some reports given to us. We will have, shine some light on some of the students with recognition and some of the great and fabulous things that are going on here. Now, later down in the agenda, we do have a period of time for the public to speak. And according to the rules, there are, it says, those wishing to speak shall sign up beginning before the meeting stating their concern, and I do have a list. And that the audience participation is limited to 5 minutes. So each person can only speak 5 minutes. And Mr. Jenkins down there is going to be our timer. And audience of more than 5 persons shall appoint a representative. And we will listen. We're not going to deliberate anything. Now, according to our board operating procedures, we can limit public comments to 30 minutes, and we're going to do that tonight. So I have a number of people here, and I'm just going to start at the top and go down. When 30 minutes are up, we're going to have to cut it off. That being said, I do want you to know we have heard from many, many of you. We have received emails and phone calls and Facebook messages and lots of things. And I do want you to know that we are listening. We hear you. All right, we've heard you, and we'll listen to you again tonight. All right, moving on in the agenda, we're going to go on to our superintendent announcements first. Dr. Gutierrez.
Good evening, board members and Seguin ISD community. It is my pleasure to share highlights that have occurred since our March 27th regular board meeting, as well as other news from across the school district. For the 12th straight year, Seguin ISD Destination Imagination, DI, teams have qualified for global competition in Knoxville, Tennessee after excelling in the state competition held on April 7th and 8th in Arlington, Texas. Of the 5 teams at state, 4 qualify for the global event scheduled for May 21st through the 27th. Our global teams include Weinert Elementary 3rd grade team, which is also the first Seguin ISD 3rd grade team to reach the global tournament. We also had Barnes 6th grade teams take 4th place in the Fine Arts Challenge category, 4th in the Engineering Challenge, and 8th in the Service Learning Challenge. These teams did a great job in Arlington, and I applaud the efforts of Michael Olstad and Pam Krittner for coordinating this award-winning program. Last week, the high school's One Act Play Company competed at the regional level for the first time since 2011. Overall, the company earned honorable mention All-Star Cast with Jeremy Matamuleco, All-Star Cast Amber Mwandi, and All-Star Crew Carly Perez. Lydia Robles, Seguin High School Theater Director, and her team did a great job this year, whether they were competing or performing for the community. The Seguin High School varsity choirs competed at the UIL Choir Concert and Sightseeing Contest on April the 17th and 18th in San Antonio. The varsity treble choir earned a first division in concert and sightseeing to earn a sweepstakes trophy for the second year in a row. The varsity mixed choir earned a first division in concert and scores of 1, 2, and 2 in sight reading for an overall second division rating. Leonardo Garcia serves as our Seguin High School choir director. Congratulations to our very talented choir students. Our track teams have advanced to regionals following their performance in the area meet held in Austin last week. Mary Lee took first place and Carson Dietz second in the high bar, while Jade Ross was second in girls pole vault and Clara Carter was third in shot put. The boys also did well, with Dorian Shannon earning area champion in triple jump, Tavon Williams second in 100 meters, and Deshaun Brooks fourth. In the 400 meters, Michael Mickles qualified after finishing fourth. In the 2 relay teams took second place, including Brian Cash, Terrence Brandon, Johnny Palomo, and Tavon Williams in the 4x100, and Terrence, Dorian, Javion Clemens, and Drayshawn in the 4x200. Congratulations to all of these track and field athletes, and best of luck at regionals. The lady softball team will host Austin Crockett in a by-district playoff contest this Friday at 7 p.m. The home game will be broadcast live on KWED 1580 AM and SeguinToday.com. This is a single game playoff as opposed to the best of 3 series, so please be sure to come out and support these young ladies. I had the opportunity to see Coach Garcia's squad last week during their last regular season home game and was quite impressed by their performance. The same evening, I was able to watch our baseball team win by the 10-run rule over at Smoky Joe's. The boys can take the 4th district playoff spot with a win tonight, along with the Medina Valley loss. I would also like to thank the following seniors: Harsha Tam Tam, Katie Poth, and Brandon Balomadas for serving as the student panel and providing their input on the district and high school initiatives during last week's State of the District presentation at the Performing Arts Center. These students rose to the occasion to share their thoughts with all of those in attendance. The district also hosted the School Safety Summit on Saturday at Seguin High School. I want to thank our Student Support Services Department for organizing this successful event, and Lisa Crane, co-founder of Alice Active Shooter Training Program, who served as our keynote speaker. Additionally, we appreciate the support of these community partners for their attendance and participation: Guadalupe County Children's Advocacy Center, Guadalupe County Juvenile Services, Guadalupe County Valley Family Violence Shelter, and the Seguin Police Department. Mr. Jenkins, I am looking forward to joining you in our Teachers of the Year on Thursday night for the Masonic Lodge Annual Teacher of the Year dinner and awards. I hear that the Masons put out quite the spread for these guests. I look forward to a good home-cooked meal. This Saturday, our very own Seguin ISD librarians are hosting a book fest in the Seguin High School Library from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. This event, which is free and open to all, will feature guest speakers, games, door prizes, and food trucks. Students can create their own My Own account, which is an essentially Netflix for grade-appropriate books. We'll share more about My Own Thursday morning at a news conference at Vogel Elementary for our Seguin Reads program. In what has become a tradition, our choirs will be performing at the City of Seguin's Earth Day Festival on Saturday in Central Park. Performances begin at 10 a.m. and run through 2 p.m. Thank you for your continued support of our talented Seguin ISD students.
All right, right, thank you, Dr. Gutierrez. We're moving on to board member reports, so we'll try to keep them brief tonight. I'll start off, and I can tell you I went out to Potlawn. They had a big event one evening for parents and family and community, and showcased a lot of the things that the teachers are doing out there to further teacher learning. Many of us also attended the National Association of School Boards Conference. It was in San Antonio. We had a board workshop earlier this month. We had a team of 8 training earlier this month. So I feel like I've spent a lot of time up here. And I did get to attend the Safety Summit last Saturday. Mr. Holt.
Yeah, so although I've attended 10 things this past month, I'd like to take my time tonight to talk about our student council group from our Seguin High School. Although Dr. Gutierrez did mention it, I actually asked him if I could speak. Our Seguin High School Student Council was awarded the position of State Secretary for the State Student Council group. And just to let y'all know how important this is, it's one of 4 positions that gets elected at the state conference. Now that's out of the entire state student council groups, and I believe there's about 5,000, a little over 5,000 of them. This is the first time from anybody's knowledge that Seguin has actually served as an officer for the state student council. So this is a huge opportunity. The 4 officers actually put on the state convention, which hosts, like I say, 5,000 different, or actually this year there was 8,000 students there. So I mean, so it's a huge event for them, and we're responsible, and I believe that Cheney Stevenson will be representing us as a state secretary of the student council. So if you do see him out, give him a good pat on the back and wish him well, because he's got a lot of work ahead of him the next year. So, but thank you.
He really does. Thank you, John. Ms. Effenberger?
I attended the first part of the Safety Summit on Saturday, and I will be serving as a committee member of the committee that's going to select the district's Teachers of the Year. We'll begin our interviews later this week, and then next week we'll go into the classrooms and do a classroom visit of all the candidates, and that'll take quite a bit of time. I received a number of invitations to activities in May, so it's going to be a very busy month.
Very busy, and I do want to recognize Ms. Effenberger. She's been serving on the committee to help pick the District Teachers of the Year for a number of years, and it is a very big time commitment, so thank you for your time. All right, Mr. Amador?
I also attended the National School Boards Association, where I learned quite a few things. There were items to discuss on social media, the consequences of using it and how to use it for board members, officials anyway, and things on cybersecurity and alternative fuels for transportation, which I had an interest in, and school meals and many other things. I did wind up missing the Facilities Committee, but I'm not going to miss the next one.
All right, Mr. Jenkins.
I too attended the National School Board Association meeting. I received over about 10 hours of training, which was very well received from my end. I attended the State of the District meeting, and then the Facilities and Grounds Committee meeting, which I think was very productive this time, and actually looking forward to the next one. Several sporting events throughout the month. Thank you.
Ms. Reel?
I also went to the NSBA conference. Most of the classes that I attended involved CTE and all of the things that are the new things that are coming up with CTE and how different school districts are implementing CTE programs, which is a pretty big passion of mine. So I learned a lot. I also took another class that was really interesting. Mr. Jenkins and I took it was about food recovery. We learned some really interesting things and things that we can hopefully implement in our district. I just wanted to add on one thing about the book fest this Saturday. There's going to be 2 authors. One of the authors is Lucas Miller. Some of you may have heard of him. He's a singing zoologist. My boys are grown now, but when they were little, Lucas Miller was around and he's fantastic. So I highly encourage everybody to head out to the book fest Saturday.
Mr. Amador? Sorry.
With a lot,
Mr.
Mr.
Flores.
Amador indicated I as well went to the National School Board Conference and attended some of the sessions in regards to the cybersecurity and social media classes of that nature, and the workshops that Ms. Mendez indicated as well. But I want to take this time to mention I spoke several months ago. Brought to the district, indicated that I myself at Continental been working with our HR manager and working with our corporate office and attempting to get a robotics grant for the school district, and I'm glad to say that that has been approved, and Dr. Gutierrez, I will be coming in the next couple months presenting Seguin ISD with the robotics grant for the district. So it has been approved at Germany. So we'll be coming back with a check for Seguin ISD for robotics grant. So that's some good news. Something that the corporation has been wanting to give back to the community, and this is the first start and something that we will be hoping to continue to do on an annual basis. So some good news for Continental and for Seguin ISD, so we'll be coming with that. So awesome.
Thank you, Mr. Flores. That's wonderful news. And Mr. Amador, you sure you don't want to talk again? You're good? Okay. All right. All right, we will move on to the next part of our agenda, which is the fun part. This is a recognition and campus presentations. We're going to start off with item 2A, which is to recognize Riesemeister Middle School. Mr. Amador.
It is my pleasure to introduce tonight's featured campus, Riesemeister Middle School. Ms. Amber Gonzalez serves as principal at Riesemeister, and she is here tonight to highlight accomplishments from the AJB Theater Department led by Tommy Jackson.
Good evening, board. I'm very happy to be here this evening. Oh, I have to push the button. Okay, sorry. Good evening, board. It's very nice to be here this evening. We're very excited. I'm going to take about 2 seconds to talk because I'm going to just tell you what an honor it is to be the principal at AJ Riesemeister Middle School and to be there with such amazing teachers and such extremely talented kiddos. So without further ado, I'm going to turn this over to Mr. Jackson so he can talk to you a little bit about what you're going to see this evening and get a little sampling of our amazing students. And if you guys would like to come out, we are going to be doing a show, Beauty and the Beast, at our campus, and Mr. Jackson can talk to you a little bit more about the dates and the times of our showing. We would love to see you there. So go ahead, Mr. Jackson.
Hi, I am Tommy Jackson. I teach at Breezy. I'm the theater teacher. This year we had one big goal, and that was to find a way to become a little more competitive and participate in UIL in some way. So we had our individual UIL events, and they were very successful, but we tried something brand new, which is one-act play. That's our equivalent to bands UIL, choirs UIL, athletic tournaments. That's our big contest. We started that 3 months late because we didn't have a group accept us until someone else dropped out. And in November, they said, hey, we have a contest in January, you want to do it? And we said, why not? And they're going to tell you a little bit how that went, but I want to let you know how proud I am of this team. And I want to prepare you to get ready to laugh because they're a little crazy. All right? So without further ado, this is Garrett and Kaden.
Hello, and first off, I'd just like to remind you that we're having Beauty and the Beast May 8th, 10th, and 11th at 7 o'clock at the AJB Amphitheater. You should go. All right. Welcome to our AJB One-Act Theater Showcase for the school board. While presenting Gonzalitis' The Audition, we won first place at the Judson Junior High One-Act competition in January. Other awards included Hannah Perez for All-Star Technician, and Aya Maxwell for Honorable Mention All-Star Cast as Elizabeth, Lainey Monero for All-Star Cast as Carrie, and Julian Bermea for Best Actor Overall as the role of Stage Manager. We worked very hard on this play in just under 2 months, which is much shorter than what the other schools had rehearsed. Without further ado, our group will now be presenting a couple of scenes from our award-winning play, The Audition.
Call back to row, call back to row!
on that list. This is a mistake, right? Right?
Come back tomorrow, everyone! Is Mr. Torrance here? Is Mr. Torrance here?
I'll be right there.
What is the meaning of this?
I'm not sure what you're talking about.
I'm Allison's
Oh,
father.
nice to meet you.
So I realize that you're new this year, and you're trying to change things.
Well, Allison didn't really...
Can I finish? That girl seems like an angel, okay? All these other kids sound like monkeys being shot. But my girl, she's beautiful, she's talented, and she's sings.
I'm sure she is, but...
Can I finish? That girl has more talent in her frickin' foot than you've ever seen in your whole entire life. When she did Belle, the audience was weeping for joy, weeping! An old lady had a heart attack. She was so good. And this woman is dying, okay? And she's happy because she gets to see my girl upstairs.
Well, she's welcome to audition next year.
Are you not listening? Do you have some sort of brain problem? Put Allison in the show.
I'm afraid I can't
Put
do
Allison
that.
in the show.
No.
You are a moron, and I will destroy you.
You need to calm down.
I will calm down when you are dead or Allison is in the show.
I'm afraid I can't put her in the show.
Let's go.
I think you're taking this a little bit overboard.
Let's see what you got.
I'm not going to fight you.
You will be destroyed. Oh, my hip! Oh, my hip! You broke my hip!
I barely touched you.
Oh, I've been assaulted. I've been battered and assaulted. It's going to the hospital. Why? Why did I ever do to you?
You said you were going to destroy me.
I didn't mean it all. This is the end. Goodbye, Crowell.
Help!
Please, I have to tell you something. Please come closer. Please, closer. I'm suing you.
I'm still not putting Allison in the show.
Fine. Okay, everyone, out here. I need you in 2 lines. Where's your dancing ability?
Yes.
Okay, now here's the move. Kick, step, kick, shuffle, spin, kick. Got it? Everyone. Kick, step, kick, shuffle, spin. Kick, step, kick, shuffle, spin, kick.
Then we add sashay, work it. Everybody.
Wait, no.
Everybody.
Sashay, work it.
Stop!
Are you aware that you suck?
Yuma, you are not the dance captain.
Oh, really? Then maybe it's time for a dance-off.
Maybe it's not time for a dance off.
That's because you can't bring it. Oh, no, you didn't! What? I'm scared. I can't help it. What you got? Come on, bring it.
You want me to bring it?
I want you to bring it like the pizza delivery man. Piping hot and fresh. In under 30 minutes. Before it gets free.
All right, let's go then.
Oh, you've been served. Oh, no, you didn't.
Is that not appropriate right now? I'm not sure. Should I have said all snap? I can never tell the difference.
The cast list is up. Singing.
So thank you again for having us. If you want to see us, we have flyers in the back for Beauty and the Beast in May on the 8th, 10th, and 11th. Thank you.
And thank y'all so much. Students, y'all did a great job for a fairly large audience, so good job. I'm sure the high school's looking forward to seeing you coming up. All right, moving on to item 2B. We have the Matador Powerlifters earned the top 5 in state, and Mr. Hoffman's going to be introducing.
Madam President, board members, Dr. Gutierrez, we are proud to introduce two of our Seguin High School students who were at the state powerlifting meet. We have Cody Elizalde, who placed 5th up in Abilene during the meet, as well as Jade Ross, who took 3rd place and earned a bronze medal. I'd like for them to come up, as well as head coach Nate Langford. And if he has Terry Dowland and Michael Castro as assistants, they're welcome to come up too. And Coach, it's all yours. Congratulations.
Well, thank you for acknowledging their hard work. Again, it's been a pleasure getting to coach these two. In powerlifting, you don't necessarily have to be the best athlete in the world. All it comes down to is really just hard work. So putting things in perspective, like Jade, she finished 3rd in state. That being said, there was 305 girls in the state that competed in her weight class. So keeping that in respect at 3 out of 300 is pretty darn good. And Cody finished 5th out of 507 boys in the 148s. So again, just want to thank you for recognizing all their hard work. We practice 6 o'clock in the morning, so they were there every day playing multiple sports. So definitely hard work pays off. So thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Before you leave, Jade, just for those in the audience, I want you to know something. I actually went to Waco and watched Jade compete at the state championship, and I'm going to tell you, this young lady right here, she competes in the 114 weight class. She deadlifted 350 pounds, she squatted 260, and bench pressed 150. I don't think I could have achieved any of those, so just let you know. That's just one more time I did all that stuff. Great job.
Congratulations, Jade and Cody.
Congratulations, you should be proud.
We're proud. Moving on to item 2C, we have the Skills USA duo took 2nd in the state tournament. And Mr. Hoffman again.
Board members, we'd like to bring up Kurt Grywan along with Christopher Pereira and Leonardo Castillo. They competed at the state meet on April 7th, and I think these two young men are going to go through the presentation that they shared at the state meet for us tonight.
Good afternoon, thanks for having us. This is my construction tech team on the career promotion demonstration. They did very well at district, took 1st there. Thank you, go straight. Went to state and they took 2nd there. And it's a tough competition at state with these kids. So they're going to do their presentation for you. Hope you enjoy. Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Leonardo Castillo. And I'm Christopher Pereira. We are Seguin High School Construction Tech 1, and we are here to encourage local Skills USA chapters to promote the organizations, the careers, the technical education, and the related occupational information through a PowerPoint presentation. Today, we're going to be talking about the 5 most important values in this career class. These 5 values are safety, principles, purpose, educational value, and teamwork. These 5 values are the key to succeeding, not just in school, but also in life. The purpose of this class is not only to prepare us in life, but to give us a career option that we can grow up and actually enjoy doing. We want to promote the class and show that just because you're doing hard work, it doesn't make it boring. In fact, it gives us a chance to help our local community and mold us into the young adults we wish to be.
Safety is something that should always be on a worker's mind. It is one of the most important aspects of construction. A worker should not only be aware of himself, but his peers and surroundings as well. And there are certain aspects of safety that should always be in action in a working environment. Some of these safety skills are always wearing safety glasses in a working environment and good housekeeping on the job site to avoid safety hazards. We are provided the 10-hour OSHA card by the instructor in our school district. This provides the knowledge of safety and responsibility in a working environment. This in turn could provide access to better paying positions depending on our employers. Measuring, cutting, and assembling. These are the basics of construction. This is all it really takes to start our construction career. And it is important that as workers, we take pride in our work so that it shows on whatever we are creating.
Our motto is measure twice, cut once. So, what does this mean? This means that we want to make sure our work is exactly right before putting in a line of work. We want to make sure our work isn't just good, but perfect to apply in the field. Team building can be something as simple as communicating in the workplace with each other. It's all about getting along with each other and talking things out and watching out for each other, making sure everybody stays safe. If everyone is moving forward together, then success will take care of itself. We're more than just a team. We are unified. We're constantly watching out for each other and making sure everyone does their best. We want to make sure everyone succeeds.
There is a wide range of careers that could appeal to any set of skills in construction, with each one paying differently and having additional benefits depending on the employer. Some of these careers are architects being paid $104,000, roofers $60,000, and interior designers $41,000, with an increasing demand for carpenters on a daily basis. There are many educational benefits to the line of work of our choice as well, such as team skills, communication skills, and construction skills, with each line of work requiring us to know multiple mathematics, financial strengths, and even sometimes languages depending on our location.
Skills USA makes a whole life a lot better. It doesn't just help you with your career, but also in life. It provides you with many opportunities to succeed and invest in the future leaders of America to provide future opportunities for careers.
We care about more than just the community. We get to know the people and their hardships. And once we learn these, we try our best to improve their way of life. It is important that the community values us as much as we value them, so we don't just take from the community, we also give back. There will be further access to this presentation in the Seguin Chamber of Commerce.
Opportunities don't happen. You create them. We are the future leaders of America, and we are striving to be great. And that's what we're trying to achieve here today. This concludes the presentation. Are there any questions?
No, but thank you very much.
Thank you all.
All right, moving on to item 6D, we have the 2017-18 Seguin ISD Campus Teacher of the Year presentation. And Dr. Gutierrez.
Board of Trustees, it is my honor and privilege to recognize our Campus Teachers of the Year for the 2017-2018 school year. And I am going to begin with Ball Early Childhood, and that is Barbara Swanson. If you would come up to be recognized and photographed. For Barnes Middle School, we have Elizabeth Magnesio.
Thank you.
For Breezy Meister Middle School, we have Samuel Parrott. And for Burgess Alternative School, we have Yvonne Gant. We're going to get a group photo. For Jefferson Elementary, we have Lindsay Delmark. For Kinnicky Elementary, we have Megan Medrano. For Mercer Bloomberg Learning Center, we have Susie Kerbo.
Thank you very much.
For McQueen Elementary School, and she could not be here today, she's at home sick, we have Tracy Post. For Batlan Elementary, we have Juan Antonio Hernandez. From Rodriguez Elementary School, we have Katie Darce. And then from Seguin High School, we have Patricia Stager. From Vogel Elementary, we have Margie Campbell. And finally, from Weinert Elementary, we have Renee Johnson.
Trustees, you want to come down for a group photo real quick? We'll kind of have to
get the shorter folks. Probably want to hide.
Oh, we went in front of this? Okay.
All right, Susie, I can see you now, Susie. Mr. Flores, I can barely see you. All right. Fantastic. On three. Okay. 2, 3. Max, if you're here, 3. And 3. Got it. Very good. Thank you.
Thank you. Good luck to all of you and congratulations. This is quite an achievement and recognition, and we'll see you further on in the month of May. All right, moving on to item 2E, we have Breezermeister Middle School Athletics received a J.J. Watt grant. Mr. Houghton?
Trustees, Dr. Gutierrez, again, if I could just follow up on the last agenda item. As Dr. Gutierrez mentioned earlier, the Guadalupe Masonic Lodge, Mr. Jenkins is a member. They are hosting their annual Teacher of the Year dinner and award ceremony, and that's going to be this Thursday. And I think most of our Teachers of the Year will be there with their family members. The Seguin Chamber of Commerce is hosting their annual Teacher of the Year luncheon during their meeting on Wednesday, May 2nd, and Naturally, everyone in the room is invited to attend that luncheon. It's a great event. There will be other districts there as well, but as we know, that Seguin is usually top dog at that luncheon. And also, the annual district banquet, Teacher of the Year banquet, will be May 23rd. We're doing something a little different this year. We're combining that with the service awards and retirement awards. Miss Whitman and her crew would have that usually on a Monday night. We'd have the Teacher of the Year on Thursday. Well, we're going to have it at Seguin High School in the cafeteria where we will all eat. And then we will move to our wonderful Performing Arts Center to have the awards ceremony. We think it'll be a great night for all involved. So we look forward to having our Teachers of the Year honored once again on May 23rd. Moving on to the next agenda item, as you all remember back in December, we recognized some of our athletic coaches from Barnes Middle School. And of course, once one of our middle schools wins, the other has to try to at least equal their greatness or surpass it. So we had Breezemeister Middle School athletics coordinator Richard Trevino, along with Conrado Reyes, who's the assistant football coach. They're going to come up and tell us a little bit about the J.J. Watt grant that they received for their school and their students.
Good evening. My name is Coach Trevino. This is Coach Reyes. I'm the boys athletic coordinator at HMB Middle School. Thank you. When I first stepped on campus, my number one priority was to make an environment as safe as possible for our student athletes to be successful. From teaching proper tackling technique to teaching proper lifting form to cleaning and organizing our athletic facilities, we as a staff have worked countless hours making sure that safety is a top priority at HMB. By receiving the J.J. Watt Foundation grant, this without a doubt will help ensure that the safe environment I mentioned has been built. So today I'm glad to announce that we are truly blessed to be receiving over $10,000 worth of new football equipment, which will include 45 brand new Rydell football helmets, which is one of the newer models right here, has great reviews for concussion prevention. And then 76 brand new shoulder pads right there, which is one of the newer models as well. And I will tell you this, when the equipment came in, our kids' eyes lit up, and they were super excited about that. And I had to kind of, try not to say all the details because I wanted to make a good announcement today. But they were really excited about that. To start off my thank yous, I would like to thank the whole Seguin ISD family, of course, Coach Bush, the school board, Dr. Gutierrez for giving me the opportunity to come here to Seguin ISD to help make a difference. I also want to give a big thanks to Coach Reyes right here for taking the initiative to get the grant started and approved. Without him, I don't know if I'd be able to get it done by myself. He is tremendous. Also, thank you to Coach Kelly and Coach Mora at Barnes for helping us along the way anytime I had questions about the grant. Of course, they got theirs first, and they were able to help us along the way as well, so they were a tremendous asset. Thank you to Ms. Gonzalez and our administrative staff for continuing to support our athletics, and especially in achieving this grant. Also, thank you to Tina Anderson for helping with quotes and vendors and everything else from a business aspect that I might have trouble with a little bit. Okay. Last but definitely not least, thank you to the J.J. Watt Foundation for helping us ensure the safety of our student athletes. We will forever be thankful for this generous donation and investment towards our student athletes.
Thank you, Coach Reyes and Coach Trevino.
I just wanted to tell you guys a little bit more about the J.J. Watt Foundation. It's a non-profit organization that provides after-school opportunities for middle school-age children in the community to become involved in athletics so that they may learn the character traits of accountability, teamwork, leadership, work ethic, and perseverance while in a safe, supervised environment with their peers. So like Coach Trevino said, we'd like to thank them and thank you guys for having us tonight.
Thank you. That's some good-looking equipment, and I know, gentlemen, that writing a grant is not an easy feat, and getting the grant is not an easy feat, and so please, thank you very much for all that you've done for the students at Breezemeister. Okay, moving on to item 3. This is our section for audience with the board. So we do designate a time for audience participation at the beginning of each meeting to hear persons who desire to make comments. In accordance with board policy BED local, those wishing to speak shall sign up before the meeting begins, stating the concern or noting the agenda item they wish to address. Second, audience participation is limited to 5 minutes. Third, an audience of more than 5 persons shall appoint a representative. And last, the board shall not deliberate on any subject that is not on the posted agenda. So just to review, we're going to have 30 minutes set aside for this. Mr. Jenkins is setting his clock when the first person comes up. He's also the timekeeper. So if you're going to be one of the people to come up to address the board, when you've got 1 minute left, if you make it that long, he will let you know that you have 1 minute. All right? So first we have Mr. Jim Misildine, and he's here to speak out in support of Ms. Belviatric.
Thank you. Board member, superintendent. So my pleasure to be here tonight. And again, the purpose that I'm here is to come in support of Brandy Bell. And what I'm asking the board to do is to deny the non-renewal request from the superintendent and to reinstate her as the principal at Weinert Elementary School. A little background for me. I'm a former educator. I've been in education for over 40 years. I taught at Marion for 29 years as the ag teacher. I was also the CTE coordinator. I currently teach at Texas State University. Both of my children are both administrators, one with Northeast ISD, one with Schertz-Cibolo ISD, and I'm a former school board member for Marion ISD. I had to get off the board when I relocated to Seguin. Probably the biggest thing is I'm a parent. My daughter is Jasmine Misildine. She is a 12-year-old student that goes to Barnes Middle School. Prior to going to Barnes Middle School, she was at Weinert Elementary School from 2nd grade through 5th grade. I'm a very involved parent. Jasmine was having some difficulties, and we had her tested, and she had learning disabilities in reading. And so we worked with Weinert's group to get her accommodations set so that she could see success in school. And each year from 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade, Jasmine did improve each year in terms of her grades and her teacher assistants. The climate of the school was excellent. The support of the teachers was excellent. The support of the administrators was excellent. So as a parent, I'm coming forward to tell you that I've never seen an issue at Weinert while I was there. The other thing I'd like for you to know is that you've obviously seen the test scores. One of the reasons years back that administration moved Brandy to Weinert was to improve the test scores because they weren't where they needed to be. If you've looked at the STAR report for 2017 for this district, and you see that for all tests for 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade, the state average is 75%. The Seguin district average is 68%, and the Weinert average is 85%. 17 points above the composite of the rest of the elementary schools with their score counting. So there's no doubt that there's been student success with Brandy Bell at Weinert Elementary School. Give you a little background, a relationship between Brandy and I. I was her teacher in high school, a very competitive person, a very driven person. I hadn't kept track with her very much until we got back at Weinert and she was the principal. And to tell you the truth, when I relocated from Marion to Seguin, I wasn't really looking forward to Jasmine going to an elementary school here because I knew what the scores were. And I was thrilled when I found out Brandy Bell was running that school. And from that point, you know what the scores are. So proof is right there in terms of black and white on the score sheet. I don't know why, read the article in the paper today, have no idea why they're requesting non-renewal. That hasn't been exposed. So as a former board member, I know there's certain reasons that you look at. Typically one is, what is the climate of that campus? So if there's an issue with climate, you would obviously go back to the teacher surveys from the last 2 years where the teachers will tell you what the climate was in their survey. And if they've done one already for this year, which I don't know, that would also be something that I want to look at. I don't know if that's been done. I don't even know what the issue is. The other thing that could be a problem is violating some type of policy. I know Brandy Bell, and she's not going to have any of her teachers or herself violate any policy that she knows about. Why would somebody go through all of the education? Why would somebody get a job in a school district, give everything they've got to this school district, and then at that point, why would they do something to jeopardize their teaching career or their administrative certificate? There's no common sense to that. So I would want to know, black and white, I want to see exactly what the issue is. And I want it proven and not speculation. So this is what I'm asking you to do. One last thing is, the other reason I've seen teachers go is I've been a vindictive person in the district or administrator, and that has some political pull, and there could be somebody that's after her. Brandy steps on toes. And so if she stepped on the wrong toe, then those people are after her. That could be a big reason that she's being asked to relocate. So where we're at now is she's going to be gone regardless unless you reverse this decision and mandate that he put her back in her position. Because if not, he'll just reassign her to dog catcher or something, and she's going to be gone anyway. That's how the whole program works. So I'm asking you to please listen and make a logical and educated and Christian decision on this matter.
Thank you, Mr. McCoy. Of Ms. Belviatric. Chelsea Stoll.
I don't think this mic is sitting up this high, so I'm going to talk really, really loud. Okay. Can you? Okay, yeah, this will work. I just want to say my name is Chelsea Stoll. I'm a Karnes County native that has grown up around the area of Seguin. I went to college here at TLU, and I was able to complete fieldwork in nearly every one of Seguin ISD's elementary campuses, with Weiner actually being the exception. Even being placed in New Braunfels ISD for my student teaching 3 years ago, I felt a pull to come back to Seguin for the clientele that we serve. I have never been more excited than I was to receive a call from the HR officially extending me an offer here in Seguin ISD at Weiner's campus. I can say, I want to say that I was nervous to walk into such a prominent campus and a well-known principal. That would be a lie. However, from the day I walked on that campus, I was supported by my principal, even in the absence of the assistant principal. I immediately felt the presence of a genuine support of people surrounding me. My life at Weiner has been my dream job. Well, at least it has been my dream job. I am coming here on behalf of the faculty here at Weiner campus. I know that you've received several letters from us, and I just wanted to put a face to those compositions. Coming from someone who is currently seeking a master's, I can understand the importance of climate, culture, morale, and I believe the district does as well, as they consider the climate surveys that they send out at the end of each year. In the 3 years, I felt that mine have taken them very seriously in regards to feedback. Brandy and fellow co-workers have developed and instilled an instructional confidence in me that gives me strength to take chances, push my students to a higher level. It saddens me that our faculty and staff were visited during a time when our campus was in shock and in a sense grieving the loss of an influential leader. Weiner has always been a very joyous and supportive campus with an open community feel, and now our fear of livelihoods and the livelihood of one of our own has us walking on eggshells. Brandy is one of the most honorable people that I have ever had the pleasure of working with and generally get to know. In the last 3 years, she has brought in some amazing staff members, and with the addition of Veronica Ramirez, we really had the whole package. Our superintendent is striving to integrate this district of innovation, and Brandy took that ideal to heart. She spent countless hours researching, visiting other districts, constructing a committee, rebuilding a master schedule based on a housing system, and ultimately developing the framework for a campus-wide pilot. Speaking as someone that was asked to sit on that committee, I can say that I have never seen such spark in an administrator. She truly believes these efforts were going to be able to not only provide necessary interventions for our struggling students to ensure that we are in fact closing the gap, but provide higher globally minded enrichment opportunities for students that are performing above grade level. An underlying goal was to align our campus not only horizontally but vertically so that we could build on this air of community K through 5th with a mentor program and ultimately instill the ownership of learning within each student. Taking them away from such an innovative project seems to be a disservice to the students of Weiner and the faculty that have already developed PLC goals and have tremendous buy-in. I can't speak for other campuses in the district and what they have done to show support in regards to the superintendent's vision, but seeing the efforts that Brandy has put into this project and really shown me what an innovative servant leader is. She truly embodies what it means to lead by example. She is a leader that values honesty and integrity in the workplace, and she has continued to challenge me through my years. She has moved me grade levels and yet provided me with the supports to ensure my success. Her nearly daily walkthroughs always coincide with some kind of feedback in what's looking good and ways to ensure a higher level of thinking. She has on many occasions modeled quality instruction to provide me with the professional development opportunities that I need both on and off campus to that passionate educators like me so crave. I value her role in my life because each year I work with her, I'm able to learn more about her. Brandy has lit a fire in my heart and many of those who she has worked with. And this is why we're so passionate about supporting her, because we know that if the tables were turned, she would be the first person to bend over backwards and put herself on the line to support us. I get that our ultimate responsibility is to the students. I feel that with the kids every single day. Dealing not only with educational gaps, but the personal issues our kids are facing. However, I believe that Seguin ISD, why not for the sake of argument, we are doing what we can to reach our students. While our first priority is to the students, I do believe that it's important that you like where you work. This is what changes education from being just a job to a career and ultimately a passion. This being said, I hope that the support that you've seen and heard here today will allow you to clearly see that this isn't just our jobs. These are people's reputations. These are their children's lives. And to attack the people and their careers without acknowledging the accomplishments and the quality of teachers that are on staff due to them seems as an injustice of the highest kind. In conclusion, I feel that Weiner has already proven itself to be an educational staple in Seguin and surrounding areas. And personally, I'm the educator I am today because of this administration.
Thank you, Ms. Stoll. And Eileen Rangel would like to speak in support of Ms. Bell Beatrick. Where are we on our 30 minutes, Mr. Jenkins? We're 12 minutes in, okay. For those of you who are awaiting your turn. Ms. Rangel, pull that down.
When I think of Seguin ISD, a lot of things pop in my head. I am a former employee, a community activist, and an active parent who gives lots of time to be on various committees for the betterment of our community. I see and I have seen the politics of school often supersede the success of our students. The Seguin ISD Elementary School I felt most positive sending my son, Vincent Rangel, to was Weiner because of Brandy Beatrick, Veronica Ramirez, and all the Weiner staff. For the past 2 years, every morning when I drop off my son or my husband drops off my son, we see the smiling faces of all the Weiner staff, and it makes our day better. When I have lunch with Vincent at school, I see the smiling faces of all the Weiner staff. I have worked personally with Miss Beatrick, and I have seen how dedicated to education she is. She wasn't only about building relationships with our students, but she brought an even bigger component that was her strong academic background and the love and the giddiness she would get to see the students progress and learn. All students. That spoke volumes to me. Now this has happened, and again, I see adults worrying about adults and school politics play a hand again. This has not been about the students. I'm about what's doing right for everyone, not just myself or the adults, but everyone, especially the children. Shouldn't we all be about stopping the injustices of the world and do what is right? Now I feel this could and should have been handled differently. If something was truly wrong during testing, then that was a teachable moment, not a let me ruin your life or career moment. If they were knowingly doing something truly wrong, then the department and central office that oversees these things should be held more accountable. And again, these should be teachable moments. What trainings, procedures, protocols, and policies do we have in place for these things when they happen? Many questions need to be answered before even considering non-renewal. I am currently on the Key Communicator Committee, and one of the things that Dr. Gutierrez has emphasized was that the teachers and staff are tired of the stop and the start. When you change up a good combination of a good principal and a vice principal and do not redirect them and tell them and show them what they have done wrong, isn't that in essence what is happening? If this is about the students, why are we putting a cloud over their head when there was just 32 school days left? I have been on school committee since 2006. And in almost every committee we talk about change, but nothing has really changed but the superintendent. And of course, what they bring, sometimes they bring in their friends and our families to come work in our district in very key roles. Some of these things have to stop. We have many departments in central office that need change. Think on that. I, for one, think we're doing the district a huge disservice by not having Brandy or Veronica in our district. We deserve great people. Let's stop starting and stopping and start standing behind our principals, our vice principals, our teachers, our staff, and especially our students.
Thank you, Mr. Travis Lamb would like to speak about the non-renewal of the contract for Ms. Beatrice.
Good evening, board. I want to ask the audience to just hold your applause until I'm done because I don't want to run at the time for Mr. Ramirez's speakers. Good evening. My name is Travis Land. I'm a lifetime resident of Seguin. I'm a graduate of Seguin ISD. I'm here tonight to address the issues that are being put forth about my child's principal and vice principal at Weinert Elementary. This is my stepson's first year in the Seguin ISD. And after asking friends and family about Weinert, we were excited that he was going to be able to attend such a well-run school. One mother's comment to me was, Miss Beatrice is a very strict, runs a very tight ship, and doesn't put up with nonsense from students nor staff. That's the kind of principal that I want my child involved with, as well as many of these folks behind me. No nonsense. Our family's overall experience this year at Weinert has been nothing short of great. He looks forward to going to school every day, and he thinks very highly of not only his teachers, but Miss Beatrice and the vice principal as well. He was actually rewarded a fundraiser to be principal for the day, and he still talks about that. Now, I'd like to speak about how I believe this is not a fair and impartial investigation on behalf of both parties. As a taxpayer and a parent of a child in this district, I have some serious questions about how this investigation was handled. My understanding of the results of this investigation are the reason for the discussion of the non-renewal of the principal's contract. First off, the principal wasn't informed until 3 days after the investigation has taken place. She wasn't even notified that there was a complaint to begin with, much less an investigation for 3 days. That just doesn't seem fair. Second, the person that filed this complaint has a personal connection to the district lawyer. Our district lawyer was the mentee of the complainant's husband for several years, and I would know this because I went to school with him. The district lawyer, as well as you all, hired a third-party investigator without the principal getting a say-so in that decision, and how fair is that? How is any of this not a huge conflict of interest in the eyes of the public? This is just not a fair investigation to determine the validity of any complaint in this district, not just this one. Third, I want you all to know, excuse me, I'm getting excited. I want to know how you all can make an informed decision when you haven't interviewed the entire staff members that are present there at Weinert. Most of them teach the STAR testing curriculum. How about each of their opinions and not just a select few? I lost my place, I'm sorry. They should all have a say-so in this matter, and after all, they're the ones who work for Miss Beatrice. Again, just doesn't seem fair. Now, TEA hasn't even come to any conclusions about this investigation. How can you present biased statements to TEA about the principal and open an investigation with TEA when your investigation wasn't handled properly to begin with? Why is this district so quick to push out punishment on some but not all? Principals don't give the STAR test, nor is she the campus testing coordinator. Let's see. I believe the principal has been transparent that her practices on the benchmark are different than on the STAR. She's been transparent with staff, students, parents, and the entire central office. I'm baffled that SISD felt it was okay to begin this investigation during the week of the STAR test and disrupt these poor kids and teachers during the week that they've worked so hard for all year. It makes no sense. These false allegations happened over a year and a half ago, and they are just now being brought forward by the complainant. The complainant hasn't been put on administrative leave. This whole investigation doesn't seem fair from the get-go. But then again, could this be because the complainant's husband is friends with the entire school board on his personal social media page? We have all seen this post the past week. I guess we can't consider that a conflict of interest either. I'm appalled by the poor, misinformed decisions at SISD. These parents, staff, and community behind me want to hear some valid proof on these faulty allegations. This just smells like another lawsuit that this district's waiting to lose that we're all so familiar with.
Next up, we have Ms. Lindsay Mullins, who is speaking in support of Ms. Ramirez. How much time do we have left? 9 minutes.
Okay. Dear board members, my name is Lindsay Mullins and I work at Weiner Elementary as the inclusion specialist. I work to help provide students with strategies that they need to be successful in the classroom. Last week, we were told that we are in the business of kids and that we cannot afford to wear our emotions on our sleeves. I mean no disrespect, but having passion is what makes us good at what we do. And when it comes to our lives, how can we not feel emotional in a situation like this? Brandy Belviatric and Veronica Ramirez have put their hearts and souls into doing what is best for kids, and it's about to cost them their livelihoods. You're about to take away 2 loyal and dedicated leaders for the purpose of what is best for a small population of adults, not students. Brandy and Veronica have been the voice of reason when adult issues arose and helped continue to keep us focused on our passion of working with kids. I remain dedicated to our administration and hope the people we look up to in the community would listen to the facts and make the right decision to keep Brandy and Veronica right where they are, to continue their vision, to educate and inspire our future leaders. We stand united against what has been allowed to happen in our community and on our campus. This decision will not only affect the students we are dedicated to, it will be detrimental to the Weiner family we've created. If this is how hard work and dedication is rewarded in Seguin, then we need to take a look at the example we're setting for our future leaders. Where is the justice in ruining careers based off the things that do not have clearly defined procedures or trainings in the district? Have other campuses and staff members been questioned to see what procedures they have set in place? The accusations come from a very small population of employees. Just recently in a meeting, a comment was made from other campuses about how they're not really sure how the RTI procedures work because there are none. All I can hope is that we can set the politics aside and realize there's no concrete evidence to justify the career destruction and loss of our administration and teachers. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Ms. Mullins. Next up is Gary or Leticia Machado. Okay. In support of Ms. Ramirez.
Hello, board. We're here in support of Ms. Veronica Ramirez. We are actually personal friends of hers from childhood. Myself, I've known her for over 30 years. She's been a mentor to me and to my children, who also attend Seguin ISD. One of them at Barnes Middle School and one of them at Weiner in the special needs program. Veronica has just always been someone we can count on and in support of our children and the best needs for our little ones. She's never turned us away for any advice, whether it be professional or as a friend. She's someone that we respect dearly and that we know from the bottom of our heart that she thinks of these children as her own. We don't think that anything she could have done could result in the termination of her. We ask that you deny the non-renewal of her term contract and also to just reinstate her. My wife has worked with her more closely than I have in our meetings. She's always been present and been supportive for the district and for ourselves, never siding with one or the other for personal reasons or professional. Always doing the right thing for our child. And I'd like to give her an opportunity just to speak on her behalf and some of her experiences.
My son is 8 years old. He's had about 14 surgeries. When I go to doctors, I have to hear them out. You know, when they have a surgery, I don't just take their word. I have to know the facts. I have to go to 2 doctors to figure it out. Which one do I go with? Because whatever I go with, I have to make sure that the facts are right. And to me, if they're not right, then what happens to my son? My son's way of life gets interrupted. Okay, so I feel that you guys should just postpone it until you have your facts, because whether it's an 8-year-old child that has special needs or a grown woman that is an educator for our district, you should give them the right to a fair trial, because they do deserve it.
Thank you. Mr. Alejandro Guerra would like to speak in support of Ms. Ramirez. And how much time do we have? 6 minutes. 4 minutes. You talk fast. We have 4 minutes total for the rest of these comments.
Good evening, Board President, members of the Board, and Superintendent. My name is Alejandro Guerra, and I am here to get full support for Veronica Ramirez. Ms. Ramirez is an honest individual who gives 110% to Seguin ISD and this community. She is a trustworthy individual and a true leader. Have you thought about how the Weiner children who currently attend and have attended might be feeling today? They are thinking that we all view them as cheaters. Weiner is a school that for many decades has been a high-performing school. What is moving this agenda to publicly play out what should have been conducted in closed sessions? Have you thought about the many Weiner teachers who have worked long hours and used their own money to buy supplies for the students? These teachers have been accused, scolded, not supported, and left out to hang by Seguin ISD. Why did you find it hard to wait until the full internal report was created and sent to the Texas Education Agency? I recommend renew Veronica Ramirez's contract that is protected by education law until the Texas Education Agency submits its findings. Each of you board members have the responsibility to read the full reports, including TEA, before you make an informed decision. Thank you.
We have 2 minutes left, and next up we have Mr. Luis Ramirez. Mr. Flores?
Yes, ma'am. I respectfully request you, as the president, you have this right to, I'm respectfully requesting we allow all citizens to speak. You as a president. You as the president do have that authority to allow it, so I'm
I do, and I
requesting.
tell you what, maybe we'll compromise here. Mr. Ramirez, you wrote a letter to all of us, correct?
Yes, I did.
So if I could get you to yield your time, then we can go on to the next person.
Well, I would do that, but I would like to use at least 2 minutes.
2 minutes.
All right?
All right. Thank you.
I am in agreement with a lot of the concerns here. Everybody that's made a presentation is concerned about the way it was handled in-house. I am just amazed that the school district, with all the years that it's been in business, and they have to go to outside counsel, unknown outside counsel to the community. Why was our on retainer, our lawyer on retainer, why was he not used? Is there a procedure in-house for the superintendent and his administrative staff to utilize before we decide to go outside? And you have my email that I sent to you, but I want to read to you the last 2 paragraphs of my report. Veronica Ramirez is well known to me. I know she is a hard-working, ethical, and dedicated teacher, and an innovative person. 1 minute, okay. I strongly urge the board members to take the time necessary before making very serious decisions which could ruin the careers of 2 educators. Finally, when I voted for my board representative, who is Trustee Elena Wright, I hope I pronounced your name right, in District 7, I expected her and all board members to think independently and not to be influenced by spokespersons with the decisive and uninformed agenda. I expect each board member to vote their conscience based on statutes, employee rights, and fairness. As board members, you do not have to follow the recommendation of the superintendent unless you have all pertinent information, and in this case, the final decision from TES. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I will allow the final 3 people to speak, but you get 2 minutes. 2 minutes. And we will start with, I believe it's Wanda Rosales. Good evening.
So I'll call the next speaker then, ma'am.
Okay. The next speaker is Kelly Smith, who's speaking in support of Ms. Ramirez. Kelly Smith, still here?
Good evening. Thank you for having me. I am here in support of Veronica Ramirez. I have known her for over 10 years, both professionally and personally. I was also a teacher at Weiner Elementary. I was an employee with Seguin ISD for 10 years and with Weiner for 9 years. I know that it's a very high quality campus, and knowing the population at Weiner, I also know that Mrs. Ramirez is a great fit for Weiner Elementary. When I had a small business here in Seguin, Veronica was the very first person that I hired. And let me be clear, she did not interview or apply for the job. I recruited her because she's a person of moral character, integrity, honesty, and a servant leader. So I hope that you will take that into consideration in your decision tonight, and that you will keep Veronica Ramirez as an employee with Seguin ISD to serve our students. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Smith. And last, I'm sorry, I just cannot read the writing. I can't read it. So, De La Cruz? Okay, that looks familiar. Okay, thank you. Ms. De La Cruz, you have 2 minutes. Thank you. And she would like to speak in support of Veronica Ramirez.
Veronica de la Rosa de la Cruz. I am very proud of this district because I raised all my kids here. But I want you to know that I've known her since this big. Okay, she's very delicate and she listens to everybody. She's a very good teacher. I have teachers in my family. I had 8 kids in this school district, and they all have a career because of the good teachers they had. We need to be proud of our school district, not bring it down. So I suggested you look further. You cannot be proven guilty until you have enough proof for both teachers, principals. So y'all need to sit down and think about this, because we want to be better, not worse. Okay?
Yes. Thank you. To come up and speak to us this evening. We do appreciate, and we have heard your comments. Moving on to item 4 in the agenda, we have an information item. The first one, 4A, is on the Texas Association of School Boards, the TASB salary study, and I believe Ms. Whitman will be presenting at the beginning.
Good evening, President Jimenez, Dr. Gutierrez, members of the board. Upon Dr. Gutierrez's arrival, we reviewed some of our procedures that we have district-wide. One thing that we looked at is a TASB salary study. There has not been a salary study conducted in 10 plus years, so we felt it very important to have TASB come in and review not only our compensation book, but also our stipends and our overall practices. So tonight we have Matthew Levitt from TASB that will be giving you just an overall summary of what his findings are. Part of his drive was to look to analyze our competitive pay positions with the local job market, the cost estimates for adjustments, and also looking at what our administrative regulations include in regard to the overall compensation plan. So we're excited to have Mr. Levitt with us tonight, and I will turn it over to him.
Good evening, board members. Pleasure to be here this evening.
I hope this will be interactive. Please don't hesitate to stop me, interrupt if I'm unclear, if I get too excited and start talking too fast and start racing off on any parts. Please jump in. It's important that this be a plan that works for the district, that this not be something that TASB's imposing on you, but something that would work with the district administrators to make sure that it's consistent and clear with the goals and needs of SISD. So, I'm from TASB. Here's where we are up in Northwest Austin. If you're ever up in Northwest Austin, you're always welcome to stop in. We're always happy to welcome board members in at TASB. Let me just start by telling you a little bit about what we did in this process. There were several steps. We started by having sort of a kickoff discussion, talking about what were some of the needs, concerns right now, just the general pay structure, collected pay and pay structures that exist right now. Gathered best source information, comparison data with other districts. Also had some interviews with some of the senior staff to try to get a sense of what was really happening, not just looking at the tables of names and numbers. And so when we do these comparison studies, we match common jobs. What are other districts paying? What are others paying in the private sector? So we look at those jobs, we match those, and try to find accurate comparison data. Which led us to the next stage of looking at the pay structures themselves. The current pay structures, the pay is fairly competitive. Redesigned things a little bit, made some adjustments, made some alignments, some of the positions within the pay structures, some positions to higher pay grades, which we'll talk about a little bit more. Adjusted employee pay in a few cases, of not just a general pay increase, but some specific positions for additional increases. Which brings us where we are now. Came and met with the administration, with the superintendent, with the CFO and HR director to talk about what we're looking at, to make sure this was consistent with where the district's going. Brings us to this stage here for a report to y'all, for the board. The last piece is when we're done with this project, it's not, we don't change our phone numbers and try to run away as fast as possible. We try to make sure this is something that can be implemented by the district. So all the calculations we've done, we try to provide all of that data so that information can be uploaded into the internal data here for implementing that structure and pay increases. And finally, to look at some of the procedures to make sure the procedures are consistent and fair, if they need to be tweaked and revised slightly as the final last step. So that's sort of what our process has been. Just to review sort of overall of what we're looking at. Just an overview when we're talking about objectives of pay system. We want to be able to recruit staff and make sure we have competitive starting rates. We want to be able to retain current employees, have market competitive increases to make sure your current staff have market increases. We also believe in paying for job value, that every position has a minimum and a maximum, and that we're paying for what is the role for that position. And also partly believing that any sort of increases in pay structures are driven by the board. And controlling costs. If revenues go up, expect to give a larger increase. If revenues are down, give a smaller increase. But have the board make those determinations based, budget increases based on whatever is available for for that year. When we talk about market pay strategy, we compare to others, and we talk about the market median. There's going to be some variation from the exact market median. And so when you look at that, sometimes the scope of a job might be slightly smaller or greater. It might be that the person is new in the position. It might be someone who's very experienced in the position. Therefore, they'd be at the beginning of the pay grade or more towards the maximum of the pay grade. But we set these market medians depending on what others are paying. So if you've worked as a manager in the private sector, if you worked in human resources, none of this should be too new to you. We have pay range control points. That's just HR talk to try to confuse other people for fancy words. And then what that basically means is, for every position, there's a minimum rate, the lowest pay for each position. There's a midpoint rate where we try to set the market rate, and there's a maximum for each position. Regardless of where the position is, you're going to have a minimum, a midpoint, and a maximum. And then you set various pay grades depending on the responsibility, the scope, the focus of that position. Obviously, your higher administrators are going to have a higher pay grade. Your lower level positions are going to have a lower minimum, midpoint, and maximum. So that's basically our process of when we go through in terms of setting the structure and looking at the structures and trying to make some tweaks and adjustments what currently exists. So, I'll talk really fast about sort of overview, Comp 101 in 3 minutes. So they've taken your first college class in HR compensation. So let's talk in some of the specifics of what we found. We compared to, these are the comparison districts that we're looking at, districts in the area. We're not looking at the really, the very much smaller districts immediately nearby, which are paying significantly lower. We're looking at districts basically sort of, in this area. We also looked at the private sector for those jobs where there's a fairly clear comparison. We didn't do that for positions like teacher and teacher aide, but if you look at jobs like custodian and speech therapist, these are jobs where they can get, just as easily work in the private sector as they can in the school district. So we also took that into consideration when we did our market comparison. So let's start talking about what we found a little bit, looking at first starting on talking about teachers. The core of the district, the learning happens with the, with the teachers. So here are your a little bit about the demographics. This is the teacher experience. In this weird looking graph, each of these vertical white lines is the number of teachers at each experience level. So if you look in the far left, 0 meaning they're in their first year of teaching experience. You have 20 teachers in their first year of teaching experience. Over on the far right, you have teachers with 30 plus years. The yellow at year 8 is the median. Half your teachers have 8 years or less, and half have more than that. So this is looking a little bit about who you're looking at for your experience, and just sort of get an idea of what you're looking at. And we've been able to recruit and retain. There's a fairly consistent retention level amongst your teachers. A little more about the demographics of who you hired. These are teachers who've been hired for this current school year. You'll see that when we again see 0 years, these are teachers who are no previous teaching experience, and that 64 new teachers coming into the district for this year, and then more than 2/3 of them have come in with 5 years of experience or less. And this is fairly typical across the state. There are not a lot of teachers walking around with 12, 15, 20 years saying, hey, I'm looking for another job, I'm going to move from one district to the next. And frequently when you do find those teachers, they're oftentimes coaches or some other sort of specific, unique type of situation. So I point this out when thinking about your teacher pay scale to try to keep in mind that one of the most important places to be competitive is in the early levels of the teacher hiring scale. That's where you're hiring teachers. That's where the majority of people are who are looking for jobs for teachers, and that's who you're hiring. So let's talk about now how your pay for teachers compares to the market. And again, to the market, we're looking at the median, half pay above, half pay less than those 10 districts you were looking at just a moment ago. So this is the market median at each of these different experience levels where other districts are paying. So half the districts have to pay more, half pay less for a starting teacher at $46,750 and up to a 20-year teacher at $54,725. You can overlay that what y'all are paying, and you'll see a couple of things I'd point out is that for your starting teacher pay is fairly consistent. It's pretty close to the market median. You should see pretty obviously that the blue line is above about $1,200, $1,500, $1,800 above the yellow line for 5, 10, and 15-year teachers. So able to pay more for those incoming teachers who have more experience. One thing again I remind you is that most districts are not hiring a lot of 15, 20-year teachers. But most of what you're hiring your brand new teachers, your teachers of 2, 3, 4, 5 years of experience. But overall, your pay is competitive. It's at or above the market rates. It's consistent with what other districts are paying, and the teacher pay is fairly strong. So, for some people, if you like pictures and graphs, that's what that was for. If you're a numbers person, here's all the detail and all the numbers that are underlie those graphs. This is the starting teacher pay for each of those comparison districts. They're rank ordered from highest to lowest. That red line is where y'all are at $46,500 is your current starting teacher pay. Then the median is at $46,750, so you're really right about it, sort of at that median. The comparison, fairly close to that, 1% less than the market median, but fairly close to the market median. If you look at teachers with 5 years, again, this is just the number supporting that graph on the previous page. Teacher pay here for incoming teachers with 5 years experience. You're paying about $1,250 more than the market median, a more competitive rate of pay. Same thing at 10 and 15 years, paying about $1,300 more, $1,900 more for teachers coming in with 10 and 15 years. Then at 20 years, you're paying much closer to the market median. So overall, your pay for teachers is competitive, particularly for those, sort of more experienced teachers of 5, 10, 15 years. The structure itself is strong. Don't recommend any significant, changes overall to the pay. It's competitive. Let's talk a little bit about the scale itself. So, if you have 31 levels of the teacher pay scale based on years of experience, starting at 46,500, going up to a high of 62,271 in 31 years. One of the things that I would point out is when you look at the scale, the yearly differentials vary fairly significantly. So one of the pieces that I'm going to talk about in a moment is to how to adjust pay moving from one year to the next. So if you look at the teacher pay scale right now, and many teachers look at this and they see this as a guaranteed scale. This is what I'm making in year 5, what am I going to make in year 10? And they'll look at it and say, in year 15, I'm getting a significant increase because it jumps up a greater increase. I'm suggesting you move away from this model of having these variable rates of increase from year to year and try to move more towards a model of a consistent flat dollar increase for all teachers from year to year. One of the things that happens is, you look, there's a fairly significant increase in year 24, a much smaller increase in year 25, but to try to move towards a model of having consistent flat dollar increases, so teachers have a more predictable standard expected increase from year to year. So again, the structure is fairly solid. The market pay is fairly competitive. The pay with the comparative districts is fairly competitive. Propose having a minimum increase to try to get up to $47,000, an increase of $500 over your starting teacher pay. If you look at that earlier and you're very ambitious and you want to try to start that teacher pay up to $48,000, $49,000, I would just caution you in doing that because it becomes very expensive very fast. Because if you move up the teacher pay to $49,000, just as an example, all your teachers in your first, second, third, fourth year who are making less than that, you're talking about significant increases to make sure that you're not bringing in new teachers and more than your current teachers. So part of the challenge in trying to increase your starting teacher pay is consideration of where people are currently in your current pay structure. So at a minimum, propose having a 1% general pay increase across the board, which would be a $500 increase for every teacher. One of the things now is in some years there's a $76 increase, some years it's a $1,300 increase. And depending on what the budget revenues are, that in years in which the revenues are good and positive, give 2%, 3%, 4%, whatever is allowable according to the budget. But to have a minimum of a 1% increase, which would be a $500 increase for every teacher in the district. And again, to shift to an annual general pay increase of having a fixed dollar amount that's going to be granted to every teacher. If that's 1.5%, you're giving $750. If it's given 3%, it's giving $1,500. But to have a consistent dollar percentage that's given your teachers, that way you can have a fair, consistent for all your teachers and a fair, consistent amount in comparison to your other staff across the district. So, that is what's going on with teachers. Grabbing water. Any questions so far? I've talked really fast. Is this anything surprising, or is this sort of where you expected your pay to be?
I think we're pretty familiar with it all. I'm wondering if there are other districts that follow that flat increase, as you mentioned, in the area.
I would say that's the majority of districts. I can probably sort of track down the list of specific. I'm pretty sure that San Marcos, Hayes, Comal is a few offhand that follows some version of looking at the budget and allotting a fixed percentage and that same flat dollar increase. Okay. So essentially what you're doing is you move from having this being a promotion scale, but to really being a hiring scale. and that essentially you're rebuilding your teacher scale each year by adding on a $500 to each year or $1,000 to each year, and the following year that becomes your hiring scale, whatever that dollar amount is that you increase your scale by.
Okay. Any other questions, Mr. Flores?
I think the other thing, Dot, though, is where the difference comes in is our insurance portion that we pay. Correct? I mean, this is strictly the salary, right? So, and then you talk about the amount that we pay,
District contribution.
the district contribution. That varies differently with other districts as well, though, correct?
I think so. Yes.
Yeah, correct. I mean, so I think ours is we put a big chunk in compared to other districts, if I remember correctly, don't we?
293.
Well, I
mean, that's going to be that's a different discussion, but that's also going to be a big part too when we talk about, when we compare apples to apples and all that. So that's another discussion as well, though.
Mr. Holt.
And I do remember, Barbara and Ish, y'all probably remember, we did a TRE last year, year before, where we actually created a bell curve, more or less, where 5, 10, 15 year, we're getting more pay. We were noticing that we were bringing people in as first-year teachers and paying them a lot, but we weren't taking care of the other people. We weren't retaining them. They were getting to 4, 5, 6 years, and then they were blowing out and going to work for somebody else. So basically, we were initially getting them started, and then we were losing them. So we made that adjustment. Now, we've never seen that graph that you showed where the staggered increases. I guess I paid attention to it, but I guess just didn't realize the magnitude of the difference there. So I appreciate that graph.
All right, thank you. Moving on.
So to start talking about the non-teachers, basically everyone else besides the teachers in the district, and broke these into a couple of categories. And first talking about exempt, again, that's just a fancy HR word to confuse you. That's basically people who are not paid overtime that in their role, and broke these into just looking at them in a couple of different categories, and basically looking at the central administration staff, and looked at both the pay as well as the pay ranges. And so we looked at the pay range structures in this case. The pay is fairly competitive. If you remember that, when I raced through it fairly quickly talking about setting market strategy and that target, within 10% we really think is fairly consistently within the market rate. And the vast majority of positions are paid within that market rate. In this case, some of the pay ranges were fairly low. In other words, the majority of people were paid above the maximum of the pay range, or they're paid in the higher ends of the pay range. And so we suggest some adjustments to the pay ranges themselves. But overall, the people in the central administration were paid competitively with the market rates. Some of these positions in particular, when there's a single individual, the scope of the job is going to vary a little bit. It's fairly easy to do a comparison if you're looking at a teacher, a custodian, a teacher aide across district, because those positions are fairly standard across the board. When you start talking about some of the directors, some of the executive directors at the higher levels, what those focus is and what the scope is going to vary. So trying to get an exact match is not a precise science. But for the most part, in looking at comparing these other districts, these positions are being paid fairly competitively. Looking at campus administration, again, this basically means your principals and assistant principals. Overall, on average, the pay is competitive with the market rates, right equal to the market rates. Again, some of the ranges were slightly low, but nothing significant. Overall, we found that the structures were appropriate in place. And then we looked at others, exempt staff, other professionals and supervisors, your counselors, your diagnosticians, your speech therapists, all of the other campus professionals and supervisors. And again, found that the pay was competitive, the pay ranges were competitive, and really fairly little, some minor adjustments to a few positions, to some of the ranges, but overall that the pay and the pay ranges were fairly competitive with the market rates. When we move on to your non-exempt staff, your people who are paid overtime, there are a few more adjustments that we proposed in these areas. Starting with your paraprofessional technical, and this basically means your secretarial staff for the most part. That again, we see that the pay is fairly competitive. Anything within about 10% we see is very close to market rates, both the pay range midpoints as well as the overall employee pay. The classroom staff basically means your teacher aides and classroom aides, special ed aides, the teacher aides, the computer lab aides. The pay is fairly competitive. The ranges, again, are fairly competitive. And finally, the one area where there's a little bit more adjustment was some of the auxiliary staff. And this is where some of the people in transportation and food service and maintenance, and we see something like 95% on average. The vast majority of positions were paid competitively with the market rates. There are a couple of positions that are a little bit lower compared to the market. Some of the pay ranges were a little bit lower, so we proposed some adjustments to some of those ranges. Overall, however, again, the pay for the vast majority of positions competitive with the market, proposed some adjustments to the structures, consolidating the structures a little bit to make them a little bit simpler, and adjusting some of the pay ranges to make them a little bit more competitive with the market rates. So all that said, here we come to what sort of recommendations. To continue to grant annual general pay increases. Again, one of the things in looking at these comparisons with market, you're looking at other districts, and they're going to be increasing their pay. And one of the things to keep in mind is you're chasing a moving target. They're going to be increasing pay to try to make sure that you're continuing to increase pay and remain competitive with them. So propose a minimum of a 1% to all teachers, and an equal percent to exempt and non-exempt employees. Again, one of the things talking about that graph earlier about the teachers is to try to have an equal situation for each teacher across their experience as well as across each position. To make sure that if you're giving increases to your principals, you're giving equal percentage increases to your teachers, equal percentage increase to your custodians, to your teacher aides, across the campus, across the district to all positions. Second, to modify the current pay structures. As I mentioned earlier, to try to increase that annual starting teacher pay for up to $47,000. To make some adjustments to the current pay ranges to adjust the minimums, the midpoints, and the maximum of the current pay ranges. And then when making those adjustments to those ranges, to realign some of the positions in those pay grades. And again, the way those pay grades are determined is we're looking at what the market rates are. What are other districts? What is the private sector paying for this position? And try to set that pay range. And to try to set each position in those pay ranges so they're at a market competitive rate. And so there's several positions where we propose adjusting to higher pay grades within the current pay scale. So on top of a minimum general pay increase of 1% or whatever the district budget allows, and again that's something for you all to discuss and resolve as you sort of get more information about your revenues and what you're able to afford. Propose some other additional adjustments as well. One is in adjusting some of these pay grades and realigning some of these positions. There's a few positions where the current pay is less than the proposed minimum of the pay grade. So we propose an additional adjustment to increase their current hourly rate or their current annual salary to make sure they're paid at least the minimum of that pay grade in the new pay range. There's a second situation. There's some of the staff, particularly in transportation, some of the bus drivers and bus assistants, is one of the categories where some people were paid a little bit lower compared to the market rates of pay compared to other districts. So propose some additional adjustments based on their experience to try to increase their pay and to create a little bit more equity with other positions. For instance, in the bus assistant is one in which the starting rate of pay is fairly low compared to what other districts are paying. So when you increase that starting minimum, if you increase everyone's pay to that minimum, suddenly everyone's paid the exact same amount. If you have someone who's been doing that job for 10 years, they're being paid the same as someone who's in their first year. So these are the types of adjustments to create a little bit of differentiation, so that person with 10 years is paid a little bit more than that person in their first year. One other adjustment for the first-year teachers by increasing that salary to that starting salary to $47,000. Make sure that your first-year teachers are paid more than your incoming teachers next year is what that proposed adjustment is for, to make sure that there's still some differentiation of that. So incoming teachers are paid a little less than all of your current teachers. As mentioned earlier, I think the last time that TASB did a study reviewing this was over 10 years ago. Overall, the structures and the pay are fairly competitive. Again, just recommending some sort of annual review of the plan itself and updating the pay structures and the pay ranges needed on an annual basis. As it looks like it's been maintained and the pay is fairly competitive. Again, as I said, there's a small number of positions where we propose to adjust to higher rates of pay and some additional adjustments, but overall, the vast majority of positions are fairly competitive. We suggest continuing to review it on an annual basis. So, as board members, the last speech you're probably waiting for is what we're talking about in terms of money, because as board members, that's certainly one of your main responsibilities. If we look at these, sort of broken up in each of these, 4 groups, this is looking at a 1% general pay increase. What that would cost for each of these employee groups is just over $400,000. Again, you could probably basically double that if you're looking at a 2%, triple it if you're looking at 3%. Halve it if you're looking at, at 0.5%. This is something that can be scaled up or down. We certainly want to work with you what works for your budget if this is something that is that doesn't quite fit. These adjustments are what I was talking about a couple of slides back, talking about the adjustments for some of the transportation staff, some of those increases to the minimum of the pay grade, some of those first-year teachers, kinds of increases. Overall, that's a fairly minimal amount of money compared to we do these pay stages all the time. Sometimes we'll come in and we'll have that basically double the general pay increase because people are sort of off kilter so much in how their pay is structured. It's a fairly minimal number of people in cost in terms of adjustments to get their pay more competitive. And then for a total overall increase with those adjustments and a 1% increase is just over $460,000 is a total increase, the total cost for next year. Again, this is based on a 1% general pay increase. This is something that can be scaled up, scaled down, sort of modified as need be. But again, that's what we're sort of really looking at as proposed for a minimum of trying to get for a competitive increase for your staff for next year. So I spoke really fast, trying to keep you all on schedule. And what other questions do y'all have that I could help clarify or explain?
Ms. Reel?
We do a step increase in every year for teacher pay. Did you factor that into any of this?
And looking at a step increase, I was suggesting of moving from that to, instead of having that step increase, that was that graph that I showed, which varies significantly. So some teachers are getting a pretty large dollar amount one year, some are getting a smaller amount, to try to standardize that. So whatever that dollar amount is, to move from that step increase towards a matter of having a consistent dollar amount, whatever that is that's allowable for, whatever the district budget allows. In some cases, when someone's getting a $76 increase, is try to make sure that that's a consistent for every teacher depending on their experience. So that was sort of considered, but in looking at this, it's looking at trying to shift the pay increase to a slightly different model.
Mr. Flores?
Yes, ma'am. Dr. Gutierrez, and obviously this is our first stab, correct? And we'll be coming back for another workshop, obviously. So I know your administration and definitely all the teachers and all the employees of the district are aware of this, but and Tony for sure. TRS is in the red and has been for some time, and they are bankrupt. They are $3-4 billion in the red, and it's going away. And TASB, and I'm sure you've heard of that. So at some point in the coming years, that is going to go away. So at the point at the district, we're going to have to look forward, obviously, going back to some form of self funding of health services. Of course, we're going back to bidding. So we're at some point we're going to have, obviously not the next year or two, but as a district, that's going to have to factor in, of course, into the salary scale at some point. So that's definitely going to in the forefront coming. So we're definitely going to have to be discussing that, and I know we've heard that in our conferences that we've been to. So board members, be ready. That's coming.
And we realize that's on the horizon, and we're keeping that in mind along with the rising cost of the employee contribution part, and something we may need to consider at some point in the near future is the district's contribution, because that continues to increase. So we are certainly keeping all of that in mind. Thank you.
Anyone else? Mr. Holt?
I was also questioning, will we get a full report of this presented to us? We got the slide, I mean,
You'll
the
have a
PowerPoint,
full written report with all of the individual details.
and will that include the stipend analysis as well?
An overview of the site information as well, yes.
Okay, all right, thank you.
No further questions? All right. Thank you, Mr. Levitt. Appreciate it. Appreciate all TASB does for schools of Texas. Moving on to item 4B, we have personnel information, we have new hires and resignations. Ms. Whitman.
Good evening again. As you know, last month the board deemed the superintendent having higher authority for our recruiting season. But as you know, in your weekly updates, we provide you a summary of what's happening by the week, so you can see the new hires as they come in and also the resignations as they come in. But Dr. Gutierrez also would like to have this information come forward as well. You've probably already seen most of these names already listed. So 3 new hires at AJB. Ms. Gonzalez is really on her interview process right now and has her team in place, and she has these recommendations for next year. Ms. Carter has 19 years, same as Ms. Wunderlich. Both of them have 19 years experience, and then also Ms. Newman coming in. 2 of the 3 have master's degrees, so we're getting 3 experienced folks right there. And then as you can see, the resignations is listed, and I'd just like to highlight real quick some of our folks that are retiring that have been with us for many years. Mr. Tom Corbin, Sally Cadell, Donna Curbo, Doug Lucas are retiring this year. And the other listed resignations, you'll see the reasons posted. Any questions? Pardon me?
Mr. Lewis, can we put that up on the board? There you go.
There you go.
And I believe Ms. Wunderlich has been with the district before,
Yes, ma'am.
correct?
She was at AJB
She was at
before, and she
AJB.
moved to Livonia and then is coming back with us with 19
see
years
her name on
experience.
the
She does a great job, yes, ma'am.
All right, thank you. Okay, moving on to our consent agenda. And this is under policy BE local. It states that the consent agenda shall include items of a routine and/or recurring nature grouped together under one action item. All such items shall be acted upon by one vote without separate discussion unless a board member requests that an item be withdrawn for individual consideration. The remaining items shall be adopted under a single motion and vote. So under our consent items, we have approval of board minutes for the public meeting, March 27th, 2018, the regular meeting, March 27th, 2018, the board workshop, April 10th, 2018, the Team of 8 training, April 12th, 2018. Next would be the approval of tax collection reports for March 2018. Next is the approval of proposed budget amendments and financial statements for March 2018. Continuing, we have the approval of investment report for the 3rd quarter for 2017-2018. We have the approval of donations received in March 2018. We have approval of an interlocal participation agreement to join the Choice Partners Purchasing Cooperative. And last, we have the approval of board resolution and interlocal participation agreement to join the Education Service Center 2, or ESC2, Goodbye Purchasing Cooperative.
Madam President,
Yes, sir.
I move that we accept the consent agenda items as presented.
Ms. Reel? Ms. Reel would like to pull item C, so we'll pull item C, and we will address that first under our action items. So can I get you to reword your motion, please, Mr. Holt?
Approve the consent agenda items with the exception of consent agenda item C. Please move that into the action item and so forth.
Okay, thank you. Do I hear a second? Mr. Amador, any further discussion? So we have a motion to approve the consent items with withdrawing item C for action items. All in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0. And at this point in time, I think I'd like to take a short break. So board members, 5 minutes. Be back here at 8:29, please.
I didn't see it. I don't have yours.
All right, I'm going to call this meeting back to order. It's 8:30. Please, if you have any personal conversations, if you'll take them out to the foyer, I'd appreciate it. Action items, Ms. Reel, you had us pull item C, I think, which was the approval of proposed budget amendments and financial statements.
I was wanting to know, Mr. Hilbert.
Sorry?
I was wanting to know if Mr. Hilbert could explain, our unassigned fund balance dropped approximately $4 million this month. Has been just over 32 million the past couple of months, and it's now just over 20%, just like an explanation.
Well, as kind of is disclosed at the bottom of the financial statements, you're going to see, you don't typically do a fund balance calculation throughout the course of the year because fund balance is done at the end of the year. You see how much money was left over from operations and you add to or take away from the operations from prior, residual results of operations from prior years. The reason you can't do that is because for school districts, you have an inflow of money that comes in and it's not matched with your outflow of expenditures. For example, state funding happens throughout the first part of the year. We don't have any tax collections coming in at that time. Yet we do have all the same expenditures roughly that are stable throughout the entire year. A really good example of that is if you take a look at the debt service fund. Because in the debt service fund, you only have tax collections coming in. No other funds come in under debt service. And you only expend money basically twice a year for all your debt service. So those months in between, your fund balance is going to go way up and then go way down, way up and then way down. It's at the end of the year that you know where you really landed. And so the budgetary process tries to project out fund balance to the end of the year, considering your stream of revenue as well as your annualized expenses. So as far as why fund balance would have gone down, I'm assuming you're talking of the general fund? The general fund. If you're looking at the general fund combined with QZAB, that further complicates it because QZAB dollars are not continuing to come in. Those were a one-time inflow of funds. So you'll continue to see a decrease in fund balance overall. And QZAB you're obligated to report that in with your general fund. It's a requirement.
I'm actually looking at the excluding QZAB.
And it's, again, still the same issue. It's a matter of cash flow. It's a timing issue.
I'm just curious as to what the difference would be, because I look at that every month on the agenda, and it was 32, and I look to see what the expenditures are, and the changes of those are typically pretty steady, sometimes different each month. But I was just curious as to why. I mean, $4 million seems to be a kind of considered amount of an expenditure somewhere.
It is, absolutely.
I couldn't find that anywhere on the charts here to match up with that.
I'm not following your question.
I'm trying to figure out where $4 million went. I mean, why that would change from 32 million to 28 million.
If you look at your first page on your general operating fund combined with QZAB, you'll notice the $4 million difference between the amended budget and the actual activity.
Are you talking about the one that's the general operating fund combined with QZAB?
Yeah, I mean, she's asking about, because your actual unassigned fund balance monies actually are talking about the whole general fund, but at the bottom there, it calculates it all. But the actual $4 million issue, I don't know, computer's going crazy, is actually back up at the, there it is.
I just want to make sure I'm looking at the right report. Maybe if you can point it out on the screen, I'll know for sure. General operating fund excluding QZAB, correct? Okay. So if you just look at the green column, that's simply your budget. It's not actual dollars. It's just what has happened so far to adjust the budget. The next column over, that actual activity, And Mr. Lewis, if you could scroll up, yeah. Okay, so the actual activity year to date, that $46,165,010, that's what's actually been spent. The remaining 13 million is what, or I said that wrong. The 46 million is actually revenue that has come in to date. The far right column, that 13,592,000 is what we still expect to come in for the rest of the year. Conversely, if you drop down, Mr. Lewis, to the bottom of the expenditures, to date, the district has only spent $37 million, but still anticipates spending 23 million more. So at the end of the day, there will be that, you see the difference of 9,858,000. The reason why that is looking like a negative there is because it's simply looking at the remaining revenues and the remaining expenses. And so if you look at the activity to date, you've got a positive 9 million. But you look at the activity that you expect for the balance of the year, it's a negative 9 million, more or less a wash. And it has everything to do with timing of cash coming in and timing of cash coming out. So that at the end of the day, your budget, as it stands right now, looks to be lower than the expenditures to date, to the tune of $853,000. And that's attributed to the items that are listed in the footnote there. You'll notice that there were $28,000 worth of items reserved for encumbrances, rollover expenditures from the prior year. They were allocated from the prior year and spent in the current year. So we have to report them as a current year expense. Also, you had an assignment of $665,000 associated with QZAP.
I think that's been
Excuse me?
I think that assignment for QZAP that's not anything new for this month.
No, none of these are new. These have been reflected all year long.
Right, so that's why I'm just trying to figure out what would cause that to fluctuate? The unassigned fund balance. Not the stuff up on, the numbers up on top for the budget and all that. I'm just trying to figure out what would cause that bottom number, the estimated current unassigned fund balance number to fluctuate.
I have to look and see what the prior month was. I don't have it in front of me. I can try to look at it and get you an answer. I just don't have it in front of me. I don't know what it was reported as unassigned fund balance last month. We could pull it up from last month's report, I suppose, if you wanted to do that.
I looked at it and it's 32. I'm just trying to wrap my head around why it changes.
Yeah, I'm not in a position to get an answer at this moment.
Would you like to postpone this to the next month?
No, I'd actually like to find out this thing, so I'm not wondering until next month.
But it is an action item, and he doesn't have the information.
If you can get an answer for me, like in the next few days, that would be great.
Oh, sure, absolutely.
Okay, all right, thank you. All right, so moving on to item 6A. We have the first reading for consideration or approval of the local district update, LDU, as a result of the District of Innovation Plan.
Before we move on, Madam President, we need to do something with that action item that has been put in the action item. We need to
Yes,
do
Ms.
something
Reel, I
with
think
it.
that you probably need to postpone it. It is an action item now. So you need to decide what you want to do with it. Because you pulled it from the consent, put it on the action item. So, okay. I have a motion to postpone looking at the budget expenses. Is that
Second.
correct? Yes, budget amendments. I have a second from Mr. Flores. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. Thank you. All right. Moving on to item 6A, and that vote was 7-0. Reading for consideration approval of local district update as a result of the District of Innovation Plan. And Mr. Lewis?
President Jimenez, Board, this is updates to our local policy in regards to the District of Innovation Plan that was presented and voted on the board. This was worked on by Dr. Gordo in conjunction with TASB for improved language. This is first reading. It can be left as a first reading or and voted on at another meeting, or as policy allows, you can vote on it at this point.
Madam President.
Yes, sir.
I move that we actually accept this approval of this local district update. It's fairly generic in what
Fairly
it
cut and
states.
dry. All right. Do I hear business real?
I have tried to ask a couple questions about, I have, not the school calendar, but the CTE. I'm still trying to figure out the difference between the district education plan as opposed to what the state already allows. I had asked before about parent notification. Is that going to be in here at some point, or?
Are you talking about campus assignments on page 88?
The state teacher certification piece.
Oh, okay, on page 87.
So I don't have the page number.
All right. Ms. Whitman?
Yeah, so the state certification, it just gives the campus the flexibility of bringing in another individual with maybe more field experience. The teacher of record, though, is still the certified teacher of the class. So, for instance, if it's welding, then you would still have your teacher of record that can provide the grade. It gives the flexibility for someone that doesn't have to go through either the adjunct professor route, like our dual credit teachers at the high school, where they're already approved through their community colleges and the Alamo College group, or the SBAC route. So it just gives that more flexibility, but there'll be a teacher of record responsible at the campus level still. So you wouldn't have to provide notice to parents if you have somebody not certified. It's still good communication we could still have with folks, say moms and dads, this person is going to be a visitor teacher, and then they would still have to go through the criminal history procedures and all of those.
I would still like to, I'd still like to see that kind of notification, just as a parent. That is something I would like to see. And I think Dr. Gutierrez had said
That would not be an issue.
I guess when this was first proposed, it was about CT and dual credit teachers, which I definitely support. I understand bringing in professionals to be able to offer more CTE classes. The only part that raises a flag for me a bit is the additional teaching areas. The superintendent shall have the authority to identify additional teaching areas for which state certification will not be required. The superintendent shall exercise the authority only when and while qualified state certified teacher is not available. I don't have a concern with Dr. Gutierrez, but we all know boards change, superintendents change. If everything was to stay the same as it is right now, probably wouldn't be an issue for me. But I'm looking into the future.
Right.
If we were to have a different superintendent, there are superintendents that maybe I would not want this policy in their hands. And so I do have reservations about that part of it, just because I'm thinking in the future.
And
It's right now, but
for your majority of your teaching positions, which are required to have the state certification for your core areas and your graduation requirements, those are still going to be state certified credentials required. It's just the flexibility on some of those standalone CTE courses, such as the veterinarian piece or the welding piece or things like that, where you can have some field experience come in. But by all means, all your other state required courses are going to be state certified teachers. So we wouldn't do that for physics or algebra 1. Those are still state required. You still have to hold state certification for those. These are just your CTE, standalone, hard to fill courses, maybe some pre-engineering, and you might have an engineer that comes in, but you still have a certified teacher as teacher of record.
Okay. I guess I just didn't understand why that part was in there, because somebody who's, I think somebody in the public, or even, even myself, I'm a school board member, but, I'm a teacher. So when I see that that makes me question, like, what other things could that be used for by somebody?
I don't see it being used very often. I think it's going to be some standalone requests because it's going to be hard to fill areas with people that have those field years experience, like an engineer. But we might have a certified teacher that may not have the degree of level they can provide, where we can contract with an engineer to come and give some special units or lessons in that area. The teacher of record will still be the high school teacher, so they won't come in by themselves as a community person coming in. But if we have those visitor teachers, we can still provide parent notification.
And typically, most of those people that are going to come in are going to be licensed by the state some way, somehow,
Yes.
in some other field. So we're really not doing any different state certification. It's just they're not teacher certified.
Right.
They're licensed elsewhere within a different industry, and we may need that industry expertise at the actual school campus level, which the teacher of record may not have that expertise. And when this first came up at the first conference that I visited with it was an issue of like HVAC and electricians. Those guys make a large sum of money, and for them to go get a teacher certification and come into the school and teach, they're losing money. So that's the reason why this was a big push for this, because those trades that we're losing in our schools and not teaching in our schools
About 4 years ago, we recruited our own 2 individuals in district and we paid for them to go to Region 13. We had them go through the certification, the teacher boot camp. We did all of those things. They were very excited, and right when school started, one got really, really cold feet and said, I can't do it. Then the other started it but lost money in his professional business, private business, because he could not make the money he was making in the private sector, so he ended up quitting. So that's exactly why they're providing the service.
And I think go ahead. The important language to keep in mind is that it says the state certification shall not be required for teachers of career, technical education, and dual credit. So we can't, based on this policy, we can't deviate from those 2 specific areas, CTE and dual credit.
I get that. I'm all for the CTE and dual credit and all that. It's just that from what I've read online is that currently the state just requires, you can still do this, the state just requires that it's approved by the board and you notify the state. Correct me if I'm wrong. So I'm trying to figure out what it is we're trying to achieve with this plan that we can already do.
Well, that component, you'd still be trying to pursue a teacher certificate eventually. They can come in and there's a program that they work through to obtain a certification. So they want to come do it full-time eventually. These are just periodic units that are going to be presented, or partnerships based on needs of enrollment and classes that they're interested in. So it could be if you have a police officer that wants to become a teacher, they don't need that certification right away, but then they do work through an alternative certification through the state. Whereas if it's just expanding what we're doing with what we have with criminal justice, then that individual could come in and provide some lessons, but they wouldn't be hired as a full-time teacher. The other person would still be the teacher of record. Just allows the lessons to be done by somebody that's not certified.
So that's not acceptable. So we would be bringing in full-time CTE.
Yeah, it gives us.
It gives you that flexibility.
Flexibility where we could set as a district our criteria that we wanted within CTE,
Yes,
but not
yes,
without.
That's what I was thinking, and then when I read the state law, basically we could do that already, you just have to have board approval and give notice to the state.
And there's a different set of criteria, and the whole thing going back to it was that within our community, within this group, we could determine what we here in Seguin ISD wanted for that criteria to be, as opposed to falling back on what the state said it had to look like. And then the dual credit piece also worked out well to where, or the college piece was, there could be a college professor that was able to teach college but didn't have everything according to the state in order to teach here in Seguin ISD. However, this policy could also let us have some flexibility there to be able to do that. But there, I spoke with the state when we were kind of going through and finalizing all of this, and there really is a lot of flexibility. It's a very common move using the DOI to claim this exemption or this innovation. But they said if you're stating that, like Dr. Gutierrez alluded to, it's CTE, then that's for us here in Seguin, it is CTE and or possible dual credit. If we were to say, we could literally say across the board, we're going to do this. And I mean, that's really getting out there, you know, in terms of innovation, and we're not looking to do that. I mean, but it is in order to be able to try to possibly make it so we can get our students the experience we need based on the criteria that it's just local freedom. That's the big deal, local freedom, as opposed to what the state, throughout the state says we have to go.
So I just want to, I'm still trying to understand this. So as the current state law is, you say I want to hire this professional to teach this class. And you have to get board approval, and then you send it into the state, so the state can come back and say that, no, you can't hire this person?
There's so many hours of observation, so many different types of field experience hours that we need, and I don't have that exact.
That's what the state requires.
What the state says, yes. We can say we want it to look this way. We want them to spend, for example, 6 weeks here and at this institution shadowing this master teacher, that sort of thing, and we can come up with that plan locally.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So it's Mr. Flores.
I second.
Okay, I had a motion from Mr. Holt, a second from Mr. Flores to approve the local district update for the District of Innovation Plan. Any further questions? If not, everyone raise your right hand in favor. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0 and is approved. Item 6B, a consideration and recognition of the School Health Advisory Council's resolution to include in policy a mandate for daily unstructured recess for all elementary students. Mr. Silvius.
Thank you very much. We're thrilled to be here tonight. Maybe Abby most thrilled, but all of us are really thrilled about this. This is a long time coming for the SHAC, and I want to applaud their efforts on this and their patience. And so I want to introduce Lisa. Lisa's going to talk to us a little bit about this recess proposal that the SHAC has been working so hard on, and we're looking for your support with it tonight.
I get to wear a lot of hats, but this is a hat that I'm very excited. Is that being the chairperson of the SHAC this year has been a great experience, is to have a committee that is so engaged, that shows up to meetings, that gives input. And this policy and recommendation really did come with a lot of work going through it and a lot of input. Whereas the Seguin ISD School Health Advisory Council, the SHAC, is charged with considering and making policy recommendations that ensure that local community values are reflected in the district's health education curriculum and instruction. And whereas the SHAC at the December 13th, 2017 meeting, it's been a long time in the work, had a discussion and reviewed research concerning the importance of daily recess for elementary school districts and the differences and benefits of structured and unstructured physical activity. And whereas the increasing incidence of obesity, diabetes, and other health concerns among children and youth, and considering a review of the existing research concerning the benefits of physical activity for all domains of child development. And whereas research shows that recess is an essential component of education, preschool and elementary students must have the opportunity to participate in regular periods of active, free play with peers. And whereas research further shows the positive connection between physical activity and academic improvement, stress reduction, attention to academic tasks, classroom behavior, physical, social, emotional, and cognitive development. Like we should be doing jumping jacks right now or something with our cognitive development. And whereas recess, while separate and distinct from physical education, is an essential component of the total education experience for elementary age children. Now therefore, based on this information, be it resolved that the Seguin Independent School District School Health Advisory Council recommends the following statement to be adopted as new board policy. Seguin ISD shall require a student enrolled in elementary school to participate in unstructured outdoor recess twice daily for 15-minute sessions each throughout the school year. The The period of play required by this policy should adhere to the following guidelines. Recess sessions should be a separate time from physical education. Recess is unstructured playtime where children have choices, develop rules for play, and release energy and stress. Recess should not be viewed as a reward, but a necessary educational support and help component for all children. And finally, recess should not be withheld from children as a form of punishment. And we're hoping that you will adopt this 24th day of April.
Thank you. I'm so glad you read that. I was afraid I was going to have to read it.
And we should credit, Luis Moreno did the heavy lifting on writing that resolution. And I also want to thank Trey and Allison Williman and Addie for staying here with us tonight. So they are representing a much larger group from the shack, obviously. But our hope with this is that you all will sign this resolution and we will take this as a recommendation to be added into existing policy that would, of course, come to you guys again. So,
Any questions from the board? I want to say that I'm very excited to see this. I've been waiting a long time. I'm just thrilled, and it's going to lead right into connections with our LINK program down the road. So this is wonderful, wonderful news.
Madam President,
Yes.
I move that we accept the shack resolution and adopt it into policy on this date.
All right. I have a motion from Mr. Holt, a second from Mr. Amador. Any further questions or comments? If not, all in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0. Congratulations. All that hard work paid off.
Madam President, I'd also like to thank the shack, Mr. Silvius and his group. They've been really working hard on this. I've had a couple of discussions with different people on the shack, and they're really this was not something that they came about real easy, and I know there's some back and forth, and I appreciate all y'all's hard work. Please pass it on.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Moving on to item 6C, which is consideration and support. I guess you're going to stay up here. This is big news as well.
This is big news.
For 2018-2019 Texas 21st Century Community Learning Center Cycle 10 grant application.
Yeah, so again, I'm here to ask for your support, and your support tonight will come by way of signing a letter of support that will be included in a grant that we have almost gotten this grant complete, and it's a monster of a grant. It's $1.5 million that we're writing, and it would be $1.5 million annually for 5 years. And we anticipate doing well with it, and so then it could continue indefinitely. Now, the background on the grant is that it would provide much needed after-school programming for our most at-risk students. So with this grant, we could fund the hiring of a district director. That district director would have a family engagement coordinator that would work with them, and a administrative assistant. So that would be a district level position to oversee the program. In addition to that, each of the 7 sites, which would be our elementary schools, would have a site coordinator. That position is like an assistant principal. So that person would help to coordinate the activities. A lot of those activities are going to happen in conjunction with our partner groups. Boys and Girls Club being probably the biggest partner in our proposal. Their proposal would include 2 to 3 staff members at each site. And they would function in the enrichment component of the after-school program. So kind of in like the camp counselor type role. Most likely college students, they'd be utilizing a curriculum that's a national curriculum that Boys and Girls Club has that is coming from the best practices, and this grant is a federal grant and recognizes that Boys and Girls Club is an appropriate partner to use. And so in addition to that, we'd also partner with Seguin Outdoor Learning Center and many other local organizations, such as fine arts organizations, whether it be the Art League or different organizations like that. The idea being here that with this grant, we could fund tutorials for those most at-risk students with certified staff. After those tutorials happen, we can do enrichment activities that would include physical activity, recreation, intramural, that type of thing, plus technology, fine arts, that type of deal. All of this will happen, like I mentioned, with that site coordinator directing that. That site coordinator can also run around during the day and kind of connect those loose things for those families that are trying to address the needs of these most at-risk students. So I mean, the gain of personnel with this is just huge, I think. I mentioned this to Dr. Gutierrez very early on in the fall. This was one of the big ones that I wanted to get accomplished. And I'm feeling very optimistic that we have the right things in line for this to happen. But it is a very competitive grant. There are 30 grants that are going to be awarded. The grant writer that is helping us is a good friend of Seguin ISD, Deb Mahone. And I want to make sure that we publicly recognize that she's, again, is doing the heavy lifting on this, and I'm definitely in the support role on this one. But we anticipate success, and we anticipate change in Seguin, and therefore change in the world. So this is big stuff for sure.
Would they be able to reapply after 5 years?
Yes.
It's a 5-year cycle?
Yes, a 5-year cycle. And this cycle, we're excited, does not have any sustainability clause in there where there's a reduction in funding. So the $1.5 million, and we are going to apply for the full amount, would be sustainable year after year. So, which is fantastic too.
And when is the grant due?
The grant is due on next week on Tuesday.
Oh, boy.
And so there's a few things going on around the school district these days, and so we've got a lot on our plate. But we're going to have it ready to go, and I'm going to drive it up to Austin on Tuesday. So hopefully with your signatures on the letter included, and we'll be ready to go. This is a huge, complex grant, and so I imagine that you might have some questions. I'd love to entertain any that you have right now. If any of you would like to look at our grant, I'm happy to share it with you too. We just took it through a grant advisory committee that was a wonderful experience just a couple of hours ago. And the whole point of that is to have the grant vetted by our community members. And we really had some critical eyes looking at what we have so far, and I sure appreciate all of them. So we're going through the right steps, I think, to make sure we're accomplishing the needs that are in our community, for sure.
Who's going to be doing the administration of the grant? Will that fall on this grant writer, or will it fall on somebody in our central office?
Right now, I'm in contact on it, but it is going to involve more folks down the line. If we awarded, we anticipate that notice coming in June. The program will need to start in August, and so we're going to have to get aggressive about hiring, and we're going to hire some fantastic people for this because it's a big job. So that director of the program would come in. There's a lot of training that takes place. I would probably attend that training with the team that comes in, and we would be learning quite a bit. But I anticipate if funded, Deb Mahone has been very involved with other school districts that have been awarded this grant, and so we'll probably be looking for her support in a couple of different ways as we go forward.
Any other questions?
If I can mention one more thing, I want it to be clear that this program is not competition for our City Jam program. The City Jam program is a wonderful program, and we want to, if nothing else, we want to lift that program up. That program is not designed to target our most at-risk students that this program is. We want the two to work in conjunction with one another. And so that's what we anticipate, is that we can try to rev this program up and support the JAM program. I can see some situations where the enrichment activities that we could provide with this funding could support our JAM kids as well. So if we brought in a guest speaker or something like that, that they could do both. And there might be a situation where some of our students might come and receive tutorials through our program and then go to the JAM program. But the main difference being that our program will have no barriers to entry, so it does not cost anyone anything. Transportation is provided. We're going to be able to feed kids during it. So it really is hitting all of those places that we are not hitting right now.
Hit all the obstacles.
Yes.
Just want to know too, our teachers stay at school as it is right now and do tutoring with our students, and they don't get any additional pay. And so this is a win for them also. Not only are the kids getting some enrichment, but the teachers are actually getting paid for something they're passionate about and something that they're doing. And I know when you and I discussed this a couple of months back, that was one of the key points that I saw as well. That's a benefit not only for our students, but also for our staff. And even though I think the teachers will still do it, even if they don't get paid, that's just how they are. but this is a nice way we can give them some money as well.
It certainly is.
Good point.
Yes, and I would extend that to, it's really important for our community that we have a strong Boys and Girls Club, that we have a strong Seguin Outdoor Learning Center. This grant can provide some much needed infrastructure to get both those programs off the ground too. So just like you said, people are going to be working hard regardless, but this is going to put some funding in the right places. Yes, sir. All right.
Madam President,
Mr. Holt?
I move that we accept and support, move to support the 2018-2019 Texas 21st Century Community Learning Center Cycle 10 grant application be approved, signed, and support. Mr.
All right, I
Seguin.
have a motion. Do I hear a second? Mr. Jenkins, any further discussion? So I have a motion and second for support for the 2018-19 Texas 21st Century Community Center Learning Cycle Grant application. All in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, same sign. Carries 7-0.
Fantastic news. Thank you very much.
Thank you for all your hard work. Ms. Reel, with your permission, our postponement was rather short. Mr. Tony has an answer for you if we could all go back to the approval of proposed budget amendments. Mr. Hilberg?
Yeah, if you don't mind. So what I've done, I went ahead and pulled up on my tablet here the exhibit from last month, and it does speak to what I was talking about. So I'll try to depict it for you. Hopefully you can see here. So the report for March, as you can see, you have revenues of $46,165,000 year to date. In February, you had $45,196,000. So over the course of March, we only brought in about $1 million in revenue. Conversely, if you look down in the expenditure section, Mr. Lewis, if you'll go ahead, you'll notice that year-to-date expenditures through March are $37,180,000 or $159,000. In the prior month, they were $32,379,000. So you had $5 million in expenditures over 1 month. That's not unexpected. That's a typical month in terms of expense. What's somewhat unique about March is, as you know, most, or you may not know, but most of your tax collections come through the first couple of months of the year, perhaps starting as early as December, November, December, January. By February, it's pretty much wrapped up. But state funding doesn't start to happen until April. And so, Mr. Lewis, if you roll back up to the revenue section, you'll notice that you've actually, at this point in time, your budget of $30 million plus on your tax collections has already been exceeded. And there's no more revenue that we're booking in terms of a budget. We're actually generating more, and that has to do with appeals being cleared up and other things of that nature. So we've collected more in revenue as a district than we anticipated in terms of tax dollars. However, if you look down in this line here, the state funding line, you have state funding anticipated of $25 million, but to date you've only collected $11 million. You still have $14 million left in state revenue that you anticipate collecting, and that'll start in April. So in your coming months, you'll start to see that number go up on the actual activity column. But I want to point something out. If you'll scroll down to the very bottom, Mr. Lewis, of that one. Okay. So this number right here, that number right there, that $9 million, that's your result of operations as it stands today, or as it stands at the end of March. Okay. But you don't anticipate a result of operations of $9 million by the end of the year. Your revenue is not going to continue to come in at the rate it has been up to this point in time. You only have, as it stands right now, approximately $13 million in revenue to come in for the rest of the year. However, you've got $23 million in expenses. So by the end of the year, we anticipate a balanced budget. That's what's been the case all along. And at the end of the year, if you'll scroll down to the blue section now, Mr. Liss. This right here that you're looking at, Ms. Reel, this right here is where your beginning fund balance was, and that's the audited number, that $20,252,000. That's the fund balance that you started the year with. This number right here, that $9 million, is tied right up there to the current operations. And that number will continue to deplete as you expend more dollars than you're bringing in. At the end of the year, I anticipate this will be a zero. Actually, yeah, it'll be right about a zero. We have a balanced budget right now, and if revenues come in exactly as we projected, and if expenditures go out exactly as projected, with no exceptions, then that number will be a zero at the end of the year, and this number will be the same as that, minus that $853,000. So that's why you're seeing the number go down from $32 million in the prior month to $28 million now. And I just want to, help you see moving forward, you'll continue to see that number decrease. Or you might not. We could get a big influx of state funding in 1 month, April or May, and then not get any more. And so you might see it actually go up a little bit. But by the end of the day, by the end of the year, we anticipate that this will be zero, and this will be approximately $20,252,000 less the $853,000. So hopefully that kind of helps walk how the schedule is supposed to read. And it's also a reason why we have the disclaimer down here at the bottom to be careful about putting too much weight on that unassigned fund balance because of the cash flow issues. And every district in the state has that same issue.
Okay.
So does that help?
Do I hear a motion for approval?
So moved.
Okay, I have a motion to approve the proposed budget amendments and financial statements for March 2018. I have a second from Mr. Amador. The motion came from Mr. Holt. Any more questions? If not, all in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Approval 7-0. All right, at this point in time, we're going to move into closed session. We will adjourn into closed session pursuant to the following sections of the Texas Open Meetings Act. Pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.071, 551.074, 551.129, which is consultation with legal counsel, including possible telephone consultation with legal counsel as necessary to address legal concerns, implications, and answer any legal questions regarding posted agenda items. Item B, pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.074, to discuss personnel matters, including appointment, employment, evaluation, reassignment, duties, discipline, or dismissal of an employee. Number 1 under that is discussion regarding recommendations for teacher term contracts, probationary contracts, employment agreement for teachers, and other non-administrative staff, and termination of probationary contracts. Number 2, discussion regarding recommendations for administrator term contracts, PROB, I don't know what that stands for. Probationary, thank you. It's missing on my paper here. Probationary contracts, employment agreements, and non-renewals. And item 3, discussion regarding non-renewal of term contract for Weinert Principal. And item 4, discussion regarding non-renewal of term contract for Weinert Assistant Principal. It is 9:14. We will go into closed session at this time. All right, it is 10:56, and we're going to reconvene to open meeting. And the board could possibly take appropriate actions on items as discussed in closed session. We have item number 8A1, possible action regarding recommendations for teacher term contracts, probationary contracts, employment agreements for teachers and other non-administrative staff, and termination of probationary contracts.
Madam Chairman, I move that the Board of Trustees recommend the approval of the contracts as discussed in executive session with the exclusion of the contracts as discussed in executive session to include probationary contract, term contract renewals, employment agreement for teachers and other non-administrative staff, contracts for Texas Education Code 21.102C and policy DCA legal.
All right, I have a motion. Do I hear a second? Second from Mr. Holt. Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, same sign. Have an abstention?
Madam President,
Yes.
I abstain from the approval of Christy Holt's contract, but I approve all other contracts as stated in executive session on the basis of spousal.
Okay, thank you. So we have 6 for approval and 1 abstention. Number 2 is possible action regarding recommendations for term contracts, probationary contracts, and employment agreements for administrative personnel.
Madam Chairman, I move that the Board of Trustees recommend the approval of the contracts as discussed in executive session and as listed to include probationary contract, term contract renewal, and employment agreement for administrative staff contract for Texas Education Code 21.102C and policy DCA legal.
All right, I have a motion.
Second.
I'm sorry?
Second.
Okay, I have a second from Mr. Holt. Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, same sign. 1 abstention.
And Madam President, I abstain from the approval of Chanda Block's contract as per spousal relation to my spouse.
All right, thank you.
But I approve all other contracts.
All right, thank you. So we have 6 approvals, 1 abstention. Item number 3, possible action regarding non-renewal of term contract of Weiner Principal.
Madam President, I move to approve the non-renewal of term contract of Weiner Principal.
I have a motion for non-renewal of the term contract of a Weiner Principal. Do I have a second? I have a second from Mr. Amador. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0. Number 4, possible action regarding non-renewal of term contract of Weiner Assistant Principal.
Madam President, I move that we take no action on the term contract of Weiner Assistant.
Second,
Have
for
a
no
motion-
action.
A motion and a second. Discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. Against, same sign. Motion carries 7-0. That is the end of, do we have any comments, board? You have a request?
I have a request for the next meeting. Could we get a report from our CTE director on the current CTE classes that are happening this year and plans for the future?
Sure, we can add him. I'm not sure if he's already on our rotation for our board presentation calendar, but we can certainly put him on here pretty soon so that he can give us an update on the progress they made this year and what the upcoming plans are as far as courses and some of the partnerships that are upcoming.
Any other requests? Mr. Jenkins?
Can we get a report on where we stand with the high school as far as punch list and things like that, when we're going to sign off on the high school for next meeting?
Punch list. Mr. Amador?
We can kind of go over that right now if you like.
Let's save that for another night.
Well, this has been a great night as it is. But currently we're still having a problem with the HVAC system.
Oh.
And we're not getting any assistance from our architects on it to rectify the solution, or find a solution, or to rectify the problem. I'm hoping that Mr. Schultz's intervention may help. I don't know. That's where I think we left it last time right in, was getting some more people involved to get some assistance with resolution. So just to let you know, that's what's kind of
Coming
holding it
down the
up.
pipe, okay.
Pretty much, I mean, everything else has been punched out. It's basically the HVAC system that's causing some issues.
Well, we need that this time of year.
Oh, yeah.
All right. It's Mr. Amador?
Yes, could we get an update on Rawi and attendance?
Any other requests? If not, we close this meeting at 11:02 PM.